the distractions. We'll call the study session to order. It's 3:07. We do have a quorum. At this point, Ms. Brown, can we, am I okay to just bring up our speakers and we can go from
Ms. Jennifer McLennan.
Hello, good afternoon, everyone. How are you? So my name is Jennifer McLennan. I work with the Arizona Risk Protection Trust, and then I also work with my law firm, Gust Rosenfeld, which happens to be one of West-MEC's attorneys. You all work with my partner, Susan Siegel and Terry O'Brien. So, but my role here today for you is to talk about the Trust Model Policy Program and try to answer any questions that you might have about that program. I also have with me Lillian Lee. Lillian is the other program manager at the trust, and she's available to answer your questions. She's going to come and talk about some of the tech stuff because that's above my pay grade. So, about 2 years ago, the trust was asked by its members to create a model policy from scratch. I would tell you that the trust came into this space reluctantly. They had members asking, they had members leaving their current policy provider. And from the trust perspective, as you all are aware, it's an insurance pool made up of members. And so if one member is not adhering to good business practices, that puts the entirety of the pool at a risk. And they wanted to make sure that there was a safety net for members that were choosing to leave and to not have updates to their policy or policy services. And so they were sort of hounded by some of their board members to create the model policies. And they asked 4 law firms to participate in doing that. So my law firm, Gust Rosenfeld, Deaconcini McDonald out of Tucson, Chris Walker from Wright, Welker, and Pioli, which is the primary law firm that defends members when they're sued for personal injury type claims. And then Denise Lowbritt from Udall Shumway. So those 4 law firms were involved in the creation. We created them from scratch. It took us a while, probably 6-8 months to do it. Month of Sundays, I felt very bad for Ryan Cole of our office. He had to sit with 4 lawyers in a room arguing about naming and how we were going to do this. And so anyway, but we got through it, and the model policies were initiated last September 2022. And so they've been in existence for about a year and a half now. Again, the reasons the members wanted a nonpartisan, simplified solution. They wanted to go from a letter system to a numbering system. They wanted to assist with the overall risk management. So we kind of had 2 parameters when we were looking at whether to create a policy. One was, is there a requirement for it under Arizona law? So simple example of that is Arizona law requires you to have an anti-bullying policy and anti-harassment policy. The second was, does it assist with risk management? And so that was what we set out to do. The policies try to be very neutral, just following the law or what's required. They are customizable. I'll give an example of that later on. It's a user-friendly interface with the MicroScribe platform. So there is a different platform that I'll have Lillian talk a little bit about. Broken down into 5 chapters. So the first chapter is district governance. That would be the chapter that would be most applicable to all of you. That's the chapter that contains open meeting law requirements, your EEO policies, rules of order for the board, board requirements. The second chapter is on administration. So that would be 2 policies related specifically to the superintendent. One, the duties, and second, evaluation. Third is business operations. We try to coerce and gather all of what your business operations does, everything that would fall under their side of the house. The 4th chapter is human resources. You all are very lucky to have Ms. Mays. I've worked with her for many, many years. But that would be the chapter that would be most applicable to her department. And then the 5th is the largest number of policies. It's about your students, and it should be, right? That's the reason we're all here. There's also a glossary of terms, and Lillian and I are working very hard and should have up in the next week, I would say, our form section. So we're adding sample forms for districts to consider. we've been working hard with other, to create a more specialized version of the template policies for CTEDs. So there are certain things that do not, as you all are aware, ARS 15-393 says that CTEDs are, certain parts of Title 15 apply to CTEDs, and then there's certain parts that are specifically omitted. Which would mean, in my mind as a lawyer, that it doesn't apply to you. So we've been removing policies or adding to them as they would be applicable for CTEDs. We currently have 2 CTEDs that have signed up for the model policies. Steady down in Tucson, Yuma area, and BEACT up in our northern part of our state. Steady is considering chapter 3. They've considered chapters 1 and 2, and they will be considering chapter 3 in next week at their board meeting. We have gone through the first 4 chapters, and it's on Lily and Sinai's docket to go through chapter 5 in the next 10 days or so. So once you consider joining the model policy program, we will have a more specialized version for you all to look at. One example of things that where we've removed policies are, you all, as far as I can tell, do not have the ability to have a maintenance and operation override. So we had some specific policies that were applicable to that. We removed it, but you do have you do have an opportunity to go out for bonds. And so we included the bond. So that's some differences with you all with respect to SFOB this week. I learned up on whether that applies. I don't think it does. So you have an added statute that allows you to educate adults based on a tuition basis. So I added to your model policies to account for that. So the way this would work is that you, if you choose to move forward, is that we would provide to you these alternative versions to your administrative team in a Word format. They're listed out very clearly with choices that your administrative team would need to make as an initial review. They're highlighted and we have a checklist. And then we would go through and assist, Lillian and I can assist your administrative team. And then certain parts we would need legal counsel to assist. So that can be my law firm, a different law firm, anyone that you all choose to do. So one example of that is the if you're working with your leave policies, for example, you all have existing policies for leave benefits that your employees have. And we certainly wouldn't want Ms. May's office to be inundated with calls from people if you change their leave benefits and inadvertently take something away. So that would be an example of where we would want you to work with your legal counsel to customize it. But most of the decisions that would need to be made, the superintendent would be able to do with his administrative team without a great deal of legal assistance. The member districts are linked on the main page alongside the template policies. The trust policies are copyrighted currently, but it would be posted and able to have easy access by your stakeholders. So you could have a link to it on West-MEC's website, and then it would link up to the microscribe page. This is what an old version of the microscribe page looked like. This was when we just had the first 2 districts that joined Queen Creek and Dysart, but now we have 14 under that template policies. And so that's what it would look like to link to. And then this is an example just of the first chapter, the model policy platform, and the types of things that you would be looking at as a board to consider and adopt. So again, your organization, legal advice, your boundaries, rules of order, how you do compliance with the open meeting law, revisions of policies, those kinds of things that would be in chapter 1. And then this is just an example of, the policies are customizable. So if West-MEC has already done work on a policy and already revised it, we can lift that work and put it into the platform. Usually the main question that districts have when they're doing it is where does it go, right? Where does this best fit? It's kind of like a little puzzle to me. I didn't realize I liked it so much, but I do. Trying to help you all figure out where it should go in your policy manual. So this one was easy. My client Dysart Unified wanted their mission statement to be front and center. So it's the very first policy, and it's easy to add because it's numbered. So it's similar to statutes. You can just use the 1/100 and go from there. Current model policy users. So these are the 14 districts that are up and running with the model policy program already. Largest would be probably Dysart Unified and Flagstaff Unified. They call us when they have additions, and Lillian can talk a little bit about that in a minute. These are the districts that are currently moving over to the model policy program, and these are districts that have agreed and their boards have considered and adopted the program agreement. So we have, this is not a complete list. Lillian and I get new ones every day. She just told me Sonoyta joined, so we do get new districts joining still.
So just a quick question. I'm just trying to understand, for lack of a better term, what percent of the market do you have as far as school district by count? You know, there's like, I don't know, however many school districts in the district. How many are part of yours? It looks like you're growing versus like we're with ASBA. What percentage of market do they have? I'm just trying, my big concern here is risk. Do you have a big enough piece of the market to maintain and continue to grow?
That's a very good question, Mr. President. We have approximately 20 joining. We have 14, so that's about 34. My guess is we'll end up at 40 by the end of this year, 220 approximate school districts in Arizona. We were happy because we're above, well above 10% of the members of the trust. I think we're closer to 15% of the members of the trust as of recent data. So that is the percentage approximate. The trust is committed. I last year transitioned my law practice with the exception of 2 clients, Dysart Scottsdale, to my partners. I've committed to be a consultant with the trust for 5 years. They've hired Lillian. They're in it, you know, and the program doesn't pay for itself. The trust, the membership is decided, the pool is decided that this is enough of an important risk management objective that they're not, the cost, as you'll see later, is not, you know, is not expensive. And they will be considering, I'll get to that side later, but they will be considering a 5 to 10% increase at this board meeting in February. But I don't see this program going away. Let's just put it that way. So they are sure that they want to maintain this for districts.
And what,
They have some districts, not many, but some, that have left ASBA in their entirety. And so that would create risk for the pool if there's nothing for them. So, these are the fees currently. It's about $495 as a setup fee, and then after that, a $240 annual fee. The $1,000 fee is similar to what you all may have done with ASBA in the past, where they would come in and review all your policies, kind of make sure you're up to date. So that's what that fee would be. If in 3 years, West-MEC has adopted and you're not quite sure if you've hit all of our updates, Lillian and I can come in and look at that.
that seems like really cheap to come in and review all our policies.
So
Yeah, I know. I'm just, it seems like a reasonable.
this would be the cost to the trust. There would be, as we mentioned, there would be some need for your legal expertise to align some of the policies, and that would go under the prepaid legal system that you have existing. So you can choose which attorney, your administrator can choose which attorney. I can even do it if you want me to do it. I just send a conflict letter and we go from there. So, so there, in addition to this, you have some prepaid legal time that is not an out-of-pocket cost for you all, but would add to your numbers when they look at that at the end of the year. So, any more questions about the finance part of it? All right, I'm gonna kind of go through what you would do to do it. You'd preserve your existing policies, decide that you want to join and adopt the model policy agreement. Provide the trust with the executed agreement, we issue an invoice, and then you, as I've been talking about, would work with your prepaid legal attorney to move forward. Modify the policies for your needs. Again, we would be giving you a version that would be CTED specific, so hopefully that will help. And then you all would need to decide as a board how you want the administration to have you review these policies. It would be my recommendation that any consideration of a switch from your existing policy platform to a new platform occur at the fiscal year. That's the most logical time for transition. So that would be July 1. And so if you were looking to do that between now and July 1, you would make a decision as a board, working with your superintendent about how you would want to see those policies presented to you. Do you want them to be presented all in one fell swoop and look at them at one study session? Do you want to have them piecemealed out, chapters 1 and 2 at one board meeting, chapter 3 at the next board meeting? We've seen boards do all of those various issues. And then once they've been reviewed, you notify your existing policy provider that you intend to cancel. You'd get us the Word documents. It takes us about 2 weeks to get your platform built. So if you wanted a July 1 start date, hopefully we'd be done by June 15th. And then it's important to note that you would have the need there might be some downstream effects of a policy manual change. So handbooks, forms that, HR might use, your trainings that you do may reference your old policies. So you would want to make sure that those were updated as well. And then as far as post-transition, the trust has asked me to take the lead on that. So we have had one legislative session under our belt. We're in another legislative session as well. So we issued the model policies in the September of 2022. So last summer, I issued in August an update to those model policies based upon the legislation. Our governor helped me out in the extreme because she vetoed most everything applicable to school districts. So I had fewer changes to make than I would have, but that's what my responsibility is to do. And then we follow the same vetting process that we did when we created the original policies. So once I created my draft update, I sent it to the 4 law firms to make sure that everybody else was in agreement with me. Denise Baton in Tucson retired. So Michelle Tong, who was a former in-house attorney for AMFI, has agreed to take her role on. So she's knowledgeable about policies. And so there's a lot of eyes on it. That's my point. And then we also have the ability to go out to outside experts. So for instance, with chapter 3, we asked Karen Smith, who's a highly regarded auditor, to look at chapter 3, make sure that we hit everything that we needed to hit there. We have the ability, as I said, to come in and do a model policy review if you need to. And then we have education events for boards and administration. I do not need to train Miss Louisa Brown because I've worked with her for many years. So I'm well aware of her qualifications as board secretary, but we do have board secretaries who are coming on new. So Lillian and I have been doing some training and have developed a manual that actually sitting right there that I've asked for Louisa's guidance on and help because I trust her to give me some input onto what that might, if there's anything that we missed. I also asked some other experienced board secretaries. So we're trying to provide supports because that's one need. We will be, I think, developing, again, Ms. Brown has shared her thoughts, but developing an ability to, if you have a new board member coming on, what a new board member orientation would look like. So we have that specialized training. We're able to connect boards with the prepaid legal attorney. So for instance, we connected the Title IX specialist at Udall to do trainings for various districts that have asked for it. We can connect. I had my former partner, Chris Thomas, just left our firm this week, but he had been out to do open meeting law trainings or board work. We've connected people to ASA. I just connected Higley to ASA to work with Tim Ogle because they're having some policy review and board challenges. And so we have those resources to connect you with if you have various needs. And then Lillian and I put on a summit that will be in August. It's the policy governance conference. So it's going to be at the Canby this year in August, and it will be a 1-day for boards to go over the new laws, hot topics. We have a good speaker that's coming in. So that's an event that all of you would be invited to as well as members, whether you join or not. So.
I have a question.
Please.
How closely do you adhere to state statute? I would prefer to see something, if it's word for word or whatever. And that's one of the things that was brought to my attention when I started following up and looking at state statute. And by the time they got finished with their policies, it really didn't say anything about state statute at all, and yet they're quoting it. And so I'm wondering how closely you adhere to that.
It's a very good question. I'm hoping we have time when when I am done with this, to jump on to the internet so I can show you some of the sample policies. But what we did was we tried very hard not to cut and paste from state law, because the laws are applicable to you. We want to give the policy guidance that you need so that it refers to the laws, links to the laws, but doesn't just recite what this law says. All right, so I will give you an, if, I'll give you an example, and this is just one that comes to the top of my mind. But there's a law in Arizona that says if you're gonna give a survey to students on certain topics, sexual content, their religious background, you have to get express permission from the parent. At the statutory site is ARS 15117. So in the policy manual, it says school districts will adhere and require parent permission for surveys as prescribed in ARS 15117. The policy says that. We didn't, there are about 17 topics that you would have to get parent permission for. We didn't list all 17 in the policy, but within the body of the policy, there's a link to the statute. So you click on the link and it pops you right into the statute and you can read what the law says. The statutes are cited within, there are both policies and procedures and soon to be forms. The statutes are cited specifically within the policy, at the end of the policies. So, and they are active links.
Okay, so one of the policies that I came across, they had changed the wording from state statute from shall to must. Well, they have two different meanings. So when we start paraphrasing, state statute, sometimes we can get into trouble. Do you do those types of things?
And so, thank you again for the question. I would say that the answer is that, yes, there was, it's so similar to the example I gave. I'm not expressly using the language of the statute. I was referencing it. We are careful, we were careful when we created it to make sure that the legislative intent is embodied in the policy itself. So, the legislative intent, and I don't know which policy you're talking about.
Yeah.
But, the legislative intent would be that you are required to do X, shall or must, you are required. It's not an option, it's not discretion. So we tried to do that. Again, this is your policy manual. So if there's, and we have had districts be very specific to change language that was the suggested language because they felt strongly about this needing to say it exactly as, or, so it's your policy manual. Certainly you can make those recommendations, and as can the district's administrative team, and make those changes. All right, we talked, you guys are in the prepaid legal system, so that is the manner in which you would most likely get legal advice. If it's too overwhelming of a task for your administrative team, some school districts have brought in retired superintendents or sort of team leaders to head up the process of making sure that everything is captured within West-MEC's existing policy manual, makes it into the new policy manual. So next steps would be to review the policies, review the agreement. We have materials on the web that are animated videos about this subject. We also have webinars that are about this subject to dive more deeply into some of the questions that Ms. Bassam is asking in terms of what was covered in each of the chapters or how we did it. So you're welcome to look at those as well. And again, Lillian and I are here to help you. So I don't know if you can get me to the internet. And then I'm gonna have, go ahead. Thank you very much. Awesome. Okay, Miss Lillian, do you want to come and show them the magic of microscribe?
Yes. Perfect. Okay, so what we're looking at, we're on the trust website. We're not quite on the platform yet, but like Jennifer stated, here, all of the school districts that have fully adopted and they're up and live. And if you go on the trust website, you can go through any of these and go through them. I will just click on the template or actually, let me click on a district so we can see what it looks like. So this is Arlington. As you can see, everyone's gonna have their logo on there. When you guys are all ready to go and your policies are all done, you're gonna send me the policies as well as your logo so we can make it look nice and pretty. Like Jennifer stated earlier, this is a very user-friendly platform. There's not really much you can do other than to look at the policies, right? If I wanna go to chapter 1, I'm gonna click on chapter 1. And then they're all gonna be listed here. These numbers are the links. So I'm just gonna click on that and there is the procedure. Another great feature of this platform is this right here, this search bar up on the top right. So you can type in any word, any phrase, you can type in statute if you want to, and it will populate a list of all the policies where that is referenced. So let's do field trips. Okay, so it's referenced once. And so here's the policy where the phrase field trip is referenced. So that's a really handy feature. I'll be honest, I use it all the time. I do not have this entire manual memorized, so I use this when I'm looking for something. Yes.
Will that only search in the section that you're in or the entire?
It'll be the entire thing. So I was in chapter 1, but this is actually in chapter 4. So that's a great question. Another great feature that this platform has is right up here is a translation feature. So these are the languages that you can translate the entire manual into, of course, Spanish being one of them. You can also, on this platform, download the either individual policy or the entire manual in Word or PDF, and then of course, print it. This is a great feature right here. You can get a direct link to a specific policy. So if you want to reference policy 4205 on your website or on an electronic resource, you can just link it directly to this website rather than creating a PDF and then making your own link. It saves you a couple steps. As far as working with the platform, when you are all done and you send us your manual, and like Jennifer said it takes the 2 weeks to get it up and running. After that, you have some options on how you want to work with this platform. So you can have a staff member be trained on actually doing the editing of the platform. So anytime you want to update or make any edits, they can do it. Or you can just have us do the work. So anytime you want to make any edits, you just let us know and we'll work with the platform. And when they make simple edits, they are very quick. I mean, today I did one, they emailed me back in 10 minutes and said it's all done. And that's the process we recommend, just because we know this transition process is long, it's a lot of work. So we just want to take one extra task off of you all as a team. So that's what we recommend, that you just let us handle it when you want to make any edits.
I have a question.
Yes.
So when a policy has been changed and it's been edited, does it show the previous, like the retired policy and then the new policy?
Great question. So yes, this right here, every single manual will have a revision history, and you can click on that and it'll show you all the changes that have been made. And you can see on this one, this has chapters 1 through 5, a glossary of terms, instructions, revision history. Like Jennifer had mentioned, we are including forms, and some districts do have forms up, and Kyrene's a great example. They actually have a dedicated button to forms, and this platform is so great. They are willing to work with us to do what you guys need. So Kyrene wanted a button, and once you click on their policy form buttons, it takes you to their website with all of their forms. Or you can have it like Queen Creek's an example. So they do not have a policy form button down here, but they have embedded the forms into their kind of table of contents. So you can see right here is a form. So that is kind of the platform in a nutshell. Does anyone have any questions about that for me?
You know, for an organization that didn't really want to get involved, you apparently have done a fabulous job.
Oh, well, I appreciate you saying that. We were lucky to find this amazing platform that worked really well with us.
I mean, it even kind of makes sense to me, and I'm not into this.
Well, there you go. That's what we wanted. We wanted something where anyone could just get on in and figure it out on their own.
So if the legislature comes up with some new thing, you got it covered.
Yep, so we'll send that update to you, and then we'll work with you guys to update your policies, and then we'll get it updated on
So
the
you kind
platform.
of warmed up to the idea you're gonna compete with the existing ASBA.
Yeah, so we do offer similar services such as making legislative updates, yes.
I had a question.
Yes.
So on our, looking at your website and how you have it structured. If I'm looking at your Queen Creek
Yes.
policy 1-101. District legal designation as an example. So
Sure.
you have the ARS code beneath it. But if I'm totally lost and oblivious to the ARS codes and everything else. I'm gonna open up the first one. It's gonna be a regular legislature. ARS code as it reads in real time, which should be 20 pages. I mean, it's ridiculous. So how would I know which part is applicable to this rule?
That's a good question. I'll take it. So you would need to be looking for the statutory sites within here are designated to give you the basis upon which this policy was created. But it's not going, so for instance, there's discussion in this policy about the county attorney, which relates in Title 11 is the power and duties of the county attorney, right? So the portion of the policy that relates to the county attorney is cited in Title 11. ARS 15.343 is the enabling statute that allows school districts to employ attorneys. So that's how that works. The certain portions of the policy, and we were sorry, I bumped out of it, but Queen Creek. When you're talking about the ability to hire attorneys for the school district, you have that legal authority to hire based upon those two statutes. You have the ability to use the county attorney, but that's unusual for Maricopa County. Lillian and I are operating with another school district that does use the county attorney, but it's mostly in the rural areas and mostly smaller school districts. This school district is an accommodation school. And then you all have this authority to hire outside counsel, which is derived from the other statute. I think your point is that there isn't a specific citation to the statutes telling you exactly which portion of the statute the policy comes from. So sometimes we do include that.
So for instance, if you would have, in that case, in that same scenario you're reading. If I reference 15-101 under definitions, chapter 3 or section 3. Then that would specifically tell me where that rule is coming from.
I'm sorry, Mr. Garcia, so if you,
So the reference is. For someone that's not used to research,
right,
because all of us board members are from all different walks of life.
sure,
For them to really ascertain what comes from where it's applied.
there's not an
It's
exact.
just the IRS doesn't give us the exact chapter.
Right, there's not it's meant to be a policy manual, so there's not the references to the enabling statutes that allow you to have the power that's described in the policy are within the body of the policy. But you're correct that it doesn't link you directly to the portion of the statute that gives you that. That would be generally if you have a concern or an issue that arises with respect to your power, then that's when you would have to get attorneys involved. There are some policies where the statutory site is linked. So I'm gonna take, so this is a good example. Board member conflict of interest. Well, here you're defining what is a remote interest and what is a substantial interest. Those are specific statutory definitions. So here in this policy, we've put this statutory definition down here, but we've also linked it within the body of the policy because in the attorneys who wrote the policy, in our best judgment, it would be important to link so that you could understand more specifically what is a remote interest and what is a substantial interest.
So can you explain that? Because I was just asking Louisa and Scott about this
That's
because
timely because I just handed out the conflict
we
of
got
interest.
an annual statement. And the one thing I can't stand more than anything else are subjective words. What is a substantial interest? What is equitable? How do you define? So for a board member, what constitutes a substantial interest?
Well, I'm gonna go right here to the definition that I just linked from the statute and the policy. It's any non-speculative, pecuniary or proprietary interest, either direct or indirect, other than a remote interest. So they've defined it by, carving out what is a remote interest. In my mind, proprietary, how I define this, pecuniary is financial, proprietary is ownership. So if you have, as a board member, a financial or an ownership interest, direct or indirect, in something that the board is considering, you would need to declare. Examples, you own a shop that creates t-shirts, and the t-shirts are gonna be sold through your student activities, and therefore that your shop is gonna be a vendor of the district. Well, as a board member, there's very specific rules. Let's say you don't own the shop, but your wife does, or your husband does. That would be an element in which you would have to fill out the conflict of interest part. The definition of remote interests includes if you're a non-salaried officer on a nonprofit, you're a landlord or a tenant, you're an attorney of a contracted party, or nonprofit cooperative marketing. Less than 3% of the shares, public officers. So this doesn't come up very often. The most times when the most litigation or attorney general opinions are on when you have a board member who has a relative that is somehow connected to the school.
So the one I would see that is more common is we all have retirement accounts. Let's say, not so much a business, but in a substantial stock interest. Is that considered a conflict of interest then? Or is, if we're buying Cisco equipment and I own Cisco stock?
So right here, the remote interest includes the ownership of less than 3% of the shares of a corporation.
I don't own 3% of Cisco. I am sorry to say.
You should be good. So,
I would not be here if I did. Well, there's the answer, Louisa. I wish I owned 3%.
I would encourage you to get specific legal advice if you have certain legal issues. I had a weird one come up this year for a client. The client had a minor special needs child living in her home, the board member, and the minor child was employed through a sort of a CTED type opportunity to work for the district during the summer as a part of his transitioning programming to get used to a work life. And so that in that instance, the law says very clearly, the whole board, she didn't have to only declare it as a conflict, the whole board had to vote on whether her child could work that summer, which thankfully they all had big hearts and they're like, yes, of course, So, but that, there are weird situations that you had a question, Dr. Spurgeon?
No, I'm just gonna give you an example, and you already answered the question, so.
Okay,
3%.
Yeah, I'm gonna say if I owned Apple stock and I
Good.
was a board member, gonna vote.
So let me get back to the,
As long as you own less than 3% of Apple.
you.
That's close. He has probably 2.5%,
Why don't I take you real quick through the template policies and we can kind of go through what the different chapters are involved in. We've looked at chapter 1, thanks Lillian. Chapter 1 quite a bit. So this is the policy manual again, that all of the EEO policies are front and center here. So that you've got all of these read, that are up front. And the EEO policies were completed in the hopes with input as provided by the Office of Civil Rights. Yes, sir.
And also, before you get out of here, if you would talk about some of the transition challenges you face while working with other school districts and.
Let me-
That's to know when you get to the end, maybe.
Absolutely. Let me kind of go through that first. I would say the largest, I had Patty Rogers at Queen Creek was one of the first ones, and she was kind of the point person for her district. And she said words that I thought were very wise, which is, this isn't hard, but it's time consuming. And I think that's true. So it's not rocket science. It's not too difficult. But there are choices to make. So right now I'm in the model template policies. We'll just kind of go to the legal advice staff policy because we've been talking about that a little bit today. This is an example of, you have to fill things in. Are you going to use in-house counsel? Which option do you want to use with respect to the county attorney? So we've given you, who do you want to be able to consult with legal counsel? That's an example where the administrative team needs to make a recommendation to the board and then the board needs to consider which of those options do you want. Chapter 3, I can give you an example of something that's a little bit more specific. I know you're working with my dear friend Dr. Weeks in the audience right now for your business services, but you know, he would be able to give you input on, do you want to have a procedure that allows you to offer comp time in lieu of overtime? And if I know my friend Larry, he's gonna say yes to that. Or do you want to just offer straight up overtime? So that's a choice to be made and an option. So it takes some time to go through this, and I think for school districts, finding that time is very challenging. Because it's on top of your other duties, and it takes, you know, I did have a business services, Alana Berry, who's someone I trust. She said she'd set aside a whole day to go through chapter 3, and they were started at 10 and they called me at 2:33. She goes, yeah, we're done already. So great, I'm gonna use you as my example of someone speedy, you know, but to go through to make sure that you've got whatever West-MEC currently has, and there is, you know, you have a little bit of a leg up on your existing policy manual. It should say whether you have a copyright or don't have a copyright. If it's a copyrighted policy, you wouldn't need to look at it as carefully. If it's not copyrighted, then in all likelihood, West-MEC has made changes to that policy, and you would want to look more carefully at whether those changes are things you want to carry over into the new manual. So that's an example. You know, so that's one piece I think that is tricky. I think other challenges other than the time frame and making sure that you've been able to capture what you've already changed would be just as a board, you know, how often do you have an opportunity to look at your existing policy manual? So I do think there's this educational effort involved with the board and the administrative team to look at this as a whole and decide, do we really want that? You know, do we really need to keep that change that we made? So that's one challenge on the board side. We haven't had an outpouring at call to the public with these. I haven't seen, we did see up in Flagstaff a little bit of noise from their association, but then they wrapped their association in and got on board, and that worked out. So we haven't seen a lot of angst about it. Not good. So, and you know, so those are, I think, time management, the process itself of undergoing this study, and then just making sure that you're including everything from your existing policy manual would be the main changes. And then the last one, and again, you're lucky because Luis is here, but the organizational, you know, you've looked at it, your business services has looked at it. Now you're ready for the board to look at it. Which version are we looking at? You know, most school districts solve that through a Google Drive where they've got it all in one location, and they would allow people to check it out or getting your feedback back, you know, so you would need, I'll just give this as an example. It's not as applicable to you, but in the special education policy, which I can pull up, the special education policy is our longest policy. It's like 45 pages long. And the reason for that is IDEA, the statute requires you, to your question, Ms. Bazamet, it requires you to put the whole darn statute within the policy. And so it's huge. So within the body of this policy, there's really only one place where you have to make a choice. And it's when you get to how you want to define a specific learning disability. So just making sure that you're wrapping in the special ed team and getting their input from that and bugging them to do it. Those are some of the challenges.
So in previous districts, how many were on the review team, and what was the makeup of that team?
I'm sorry, can you say that one more time?
How many team members were on your review team typically?
Sure.
Who was
So
that team?
I would say most superintendents use their cabinet and divide it up. So chapter 1 is typically would be you and the governing board secretary to do that work. And chapter 2, the same. Chapter 3 would go to the business services department. Mr. Weeks was one of the betters of that. So you've seen it if you use him. Chapter 4 would go to Ms. Mays in HR. That, I think, as I've mentioned, is one of the harder areas for districts to collate, because not most of this is fine, except for, you know, you want to make sure that the leave policies, if you look at our leave policy, it's a whole bunch of options, you know, because you need to make sure you're describing what your leave is, how you wrap in Prop 301 leave and your earned paid sick time. So, and then the student section is generally would be your academic services team. But the student section also wraps in others. So if they don't do open enrollment, you would need to do whoever looks at open enrollment. So that, and again, I gave you the example of the special ed specialist needing to weigh in on the one issue. So that's how most school districts do it. Again, hiring someone who's as consultant to kind of team load, that's how Kyrene did it. They had Mark Jornstad and he was retiring that year and he just took it under his, not Mark Jornstad, excuse me, Mark Knight. And he took it under his belt. So that's another option for you.
So I had, oh. Go ahead.
So what you're saying, is the department, so West-MEC, will be working with you on these policies.
They can work with me. Well, they certainly can work with me and I can answer any questions. If you want legal advice, you could either work with me or you could work with one of my partners like Guest Rosenfeld or any other law firm that you want to get. The example I gave you here is the most one pressing example to make sure that you have an attorney's eyes on how you've created your leave policy,
Okay.
for example.
Because then usually we have a board member be a conduit for some of these.
I have not, I certainly have had the board, as a board member, you're the one who is going to be a part of the decision making. I have not had any administrative team include the board member. I think there are some concerns about doing that from an open meeting law perspective, because if it's a board advisory committee and you're on the board, you'd have to run those administrative meetings through the open meeting law. So I would want you to exercise caution. That's sort of a hot button topic right now, unfortunately. So what are advisory committees? The Attorney General's office is going to issue an opinion on that at the end of February. But right now there is some concern that I would have as a lawyer, having a board member on a committee reviewing policies that you're ultimately going to adopt. But you all would definitely have the ultimate say and the ultimate input.
So if we changed, something on the policy, does it go back to you to look at
Sure.
after that?
Yes, and so, we've had that, we sometimes, school districts will get legal advice and put something into policy that is not something that the trust necessarily recommends or adopts, but that's their individual choice. I'll give you my favorite example. I don't know if I can pull it up, but, let's see, Colorado River has adopted a policy that allows the superintendent to allow anyone on campus with a weapon at his discretion. That's my favorite example of how unique our policy services are.
Dr. Spurgeon, are you gonna bring that to us?
So, I mean, they didn't get the trust and advise them to do that, right? They got a specific legal opinion that you can, and that superintendent is operating that policy very specifically, so. But it's on the website, it's on the trust host, that policy that talks about that. So,
And what would the challenges be if we were decided to join, like say today or next week?
sure, well, I mean, I think it's a board decision, obviously, it is a board decision about what you want to do with your existing policy provider. I work closely with ASBA, I have for many, many years, I won their award 2 years ago, I'm connected to them. So as a board, that's a decision point for you. Do you want to stay a member of ASBA, which you can do, and choose to move to our policy, the trust policy services? Or do you want to get all the existing services from ASBA? That's a board decision. And I think boards.
What I'm asking is right now, we are a part of ASBA. What would be the consequences if we shifted to you to do our policies?
I don't think that there are any consequences. It's a different policy provider. You can still remain a member of ASBA and go to their conferences. If you get your insurance through ASBA, and I don't think you're
We do.
you do your ASBA? Okay, so you have to stay a member of ASBA because you have ASBA. Thank you, Pat.
Unless we change insurance.
Unless you change insurance, correct. So that's a decision for your board and I'm very happy that ASBA has Ellen Light at its helm. I've spoken to her recently as the acting director. So that really is a board decision on, right now, if I understand Ms. Mace correctly, because you have ASBA insurance, you would need to stay a member of ASBA unless, as Ms. Wiley has pointed out, you change your health insurance. But you can remain, we have districts that have chosen to remain a part of ASBA and chosen to issue policy services through the trust. They're two separate agreements.
Okay.
I had a question. You happened to show the form of one of the districts and it was the oath of office form.
Sure.
I don't think we have that. If we don't have a specific oath of office form, do you just roll down the county one that the county superintendent uses for board members, I assume?
Yes.
Yes, it is. So Louisa just gave me your form, so there you go.
I didn't know we had one.
Right, she's got one.
I brought it.
Yep. Yeah, so it is, the oath of office is statutorily prescribed, so it's
It's
gonna be
standard,
the same.
doesn't matter.
And we're not copywriting our forms, we are trying to be more limited than what you have existing. ASBA has exhibits, ours are forms, just wording. We're trying to be more limited, because I think for instance, FMLA, most of you all, and I bet Ms. Mays could speak to this, there's FMLA forms that are downloadable off the Department of Labor, but you probably have a service that you use that has a link that you send out to your employees who ask for FMLA, and it's all done on computer, right? Yeah. Yeah, they're sent electronically. So, we didn't include all of the FMLA forms in our sample form bank, but we did include a link to Department of Labor in case you don't have that kind of service.
I do like, I don't know how other people feel, I do like the fact that you're taking the effort to modify policies for CTEDs. That is something that I personally have had many conversations with ASBA about and their leadership, and they always talked about maybe one day. And so seeing somebody actually do it without me having to talk to them is kind of refreshing. So thank you.
You're welcome. It's been really interesting for me because I had worked a little bit with West-MEC, but mostly with Steady, but I didn't realize the number of areas in which you all are very unique. So it's
No
been
school buses,
right,
no
exactly,
sports teams,
right,
but we have adult ed, which
right.
is,
So you don't have sex ed, right? You're not gonna be teaching sex ed, so that there's a whole series of policies on there that will cut out. So things like that. Yeah, it's a unique, you all are a unique animal, so. And it's been also, I mean, this week I had conversations with Deborah Sterling, who works for the School Facilities Board, School Facilities Oversight Board. She's the attorney, and Chuck Essex, because we're working on the policies and they reference the SFOB, and I'm like, I sure don't think a CTED has to abide by the SFOB, and I don't think it does. Larry, opinion on that? There you go.
I'll reserve my opinion.
All right, well, I can't find anywhere where those statutes apply to you all, so I just took the language out. I think if you're operating in an existing school, if you all are operating in a high school building, then that high school has a responsibility to do the minimum adequacy standards and all that SFOB requires, but I don't think that they have any jurisdiction over the CTEDs, and you certainly aren't getting any money from them, that I know, so. It's been interesting to me to learn.
It is a different one.
Yes.
any other questions from the board?
Well, Lillian and I want to thank you for the opportunity to come out. We've appreciated our time out here, and we are just an email away. So, and obviously I've got a lot of friends in the room from my former work, so they know how to reach me on my cell too. So please feel free. So,
Thank you.
thank you.
Thank you. Well, we'll take a break till 4:30. I can't call the other meeting to order yet.
Yep, we know what the race difference is between.
February West-MEC board meeting to order. Stop letting me log back in. You give us all a second to log back in. We got logged out. All right, first item is the Pledge of Allegiance, and I'll call Mr. Frank Quinn to lead us in the pledge, which will be followed by a moment of silence.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right. All right, moving on to item number 3. The agenda's before us. I would entertain a motion to approve the agenda as presented.
Approved.
Moved. Is there a second?
I'll second.
All right, it's been moved by Mr. Miglerino, seconded by Mr. Garcia. Can we? I might need to log back out and in.
Motion by Jim, and who is it seconded by?
Mr. Garcia.
You have it up?
I did, and then it said it came across there, since it's been lost on the server.
Okay, do you want to give me a yes or no?
What are we?
Yes. All right. It passes 5-0. Moving on to summary of current events. Dr. Spurgeon, we'll start with
Chairman
you.
Straka, just want to give a shout out first to the Buckeye Valley Chamber, Teddy down there. They had their second annual MLK Junior activity. And all the proceeds go to help assist any student that needs some financial assistance to attend West-MEC. And so had a great event down in that area. Also want to put a shout out to Core Power, who sponsored a table for West-MEC to attend that meeting. I was able to give an update, kind of an overview of West-MEC for all the participants that were there. So very happy about their support. Was able to attend the National Association of Christian Administrators Conference, which was held, the first one was held here at GCU this past Friday and Saturday. Had a great time there. And then we continue to meet with our construction architects and continue planning for our projects that are happening throughout the district. Interesting meeting with his gentleman's name was Adam Begay, and he was the chairman of the Southwest Indian Polytech Institute Board of Regents. So we met and had breakfast with him. They're looking to start something like West-MEC in New Mexico. And so he's actually a part of their regent board. So he met with us to see how West-MEC does things. And we're going to continue those conversations about how they might be able to set something up like West-MEC in their location. Had a professional development opportunity with Dr. Jennifer Murphy, Senior Director of Attainment for Education Forward AZ. And she presented Everything to Gain. And it's really a research study around how we can continue to push students towards credentials and post-secondary attainment, how there's billions of dollars to gain with those higher levels of education and work skills, and just a great piece. And so I think she's going to be set up to also present that at our summer CTE conference as well. And so it's a mission, it's a vision that West-MEC already has, but we want to continue to promote that. Because as you know, many students that come into West-MEC may not have the intention of going on to college or post-secondary, but 70% of our students go on to post-secondary opportunities, whether that's through micro-credential or technical school or 2-year school or 4-year school. So very happy about that. I'll be on what's called the Leadership West-X speaker series, which will be February the 22nd. And it's kind of a call to action. And so I'm excited to talk about the educational piece and how we can continue to move the West Valley and Phoenix forward. So I'm very excited about the West-X series. had an initial conversation with Littleton School District and Pendergrass. And we're looking for ways in which we can take the NC3 credentials and career pathways down to the lower grades. So we have our second conversation with those superintendents coming up here pretty soon. And so we're looking at ways in which we can better prepare them faster so that they can matriculate right into the West-MEC programs that we have at the higher levels moving forward. And so we're excited about where that conversation might go. At the Visions Conference, we met CTED called Butler Tech out of Ohio. They're just south of Great Oaks and just have just a super leadership team. And so we've had a collaboration call with them. So we're sharing knowledge and information back and forth. They're getting ready to embark upon starting a brand new aviation maintenance program. So providing some expertise and some, snakes not to step on, so to speak, as they implement that program as well. And so just a fantastic team to work with. I attended the Greater Phoenix or the GPAC Board of Directors Retreat, which is fantastic. It's always just a wealth full of information, just some super people that are on the committee there. And probably the most interesting thing that's happened is Phoenix now has the one and only in the entire United States first semiconductor apprenticeship program now with TSMC and multiple education partners. And so we were invited, and I got a chance to speak on the education panel with Mayor Gallego and with the senior Biden officials came in to the city of Phoenix. So just a fantastic opportunity, and to be number one and be the one and only, we got some great things happening. TSMC had already hired 9 of our students so far, and they all 9 of them still work for TSMC. So we do some work at the Southwest campus. We're going to expand that work at our Northeast campus, and they're very excited about that, especially work with Julie Rodriguez and this curriculum instruction team, getting to be specifically with their technicians to write that curriculum instruction scope and sequence and looking at the assessments and the credential pieces, which is nice. So we're very excited about that. And then lastly, there's still a lot of things on it, but lastly, continue to meet with Agua Fria. They had their partnership summit this past week, and there were probably over 100 folks in that room. Just a phenomenal group of supporters, really supporting the whole career academy model and looking to ensure that the students that want to move forward in a career pathway, that those pathways are created. So just very excited about the momentum that we have available, the support that we have moving forward. And then Mr. Williams is going to talk a little bit about the legislative update and some things that we've put forward as a CTED organization to see what legislators might do. So with that being said, just a lot of things happening, a lot of great things. That's all, sir.
All right, thank you, sir. Anybody else? Mr. Garcia.
So we had a couple things that I went to this week. I also joined Dr. Spurgeon and the West-MEC team down there with the city of Phoenix. It was a great event, a lot of networking, a lot of people shaking hands and going over the grant and the opportunities that they have in Phoenix. So that was good. They highlighted West-MEC. They spoke about it many times in their other speeches. So these organizations are really well aware of where the best situation's at. I also got to go I helped design the OEO convening, Arizona Office of Economic Opportunity convening. I think CJ is gonna say more about that, so I won't take the air out of the sails, but just to say that West-MEC was again one of the conversations out there. When it was attended by most of your big business executives and leaders, and also attended to by your workforce leaders as well throughout the whole state. So it wasn't just Phoenix, Maricopa County, it was everywhere. We did that purposely in the design, so we'll talk more about that. I got the opportunity to attend an NGA, which is a National Governors Association meeting in Washington, DC, which speaks to all the workforces throughout the country, the workforce departments and CTEs they had a whole thing about it. Some states don't even have it yet. They're trying to roll it out. The different conversations I got out of there was how they were going to develop it. Of course, I spoke up about our West-MEC, put that on the map, and so that was quite interesting as well. That's all I have.
All right, well, I attended a lot of different advisory councils. On January 19th, I went to the Air Conditioning Advisory Committee at the Northeast Campus. And there, Frank Dowen, who is the HVAC adult ed, he took me on a special tour and stuff like that. It was really nice because I've been there before, but he showed me a little bit more. And he showed me about how they're building this 2-bedroom house so that all of the students from different classes from the electrical, HVAC and refrigeration, they'll build it in stages and stuff like that. They all get a chance to have a hand in it, and then they'll tear it down and we can go on to the next class. So that was pretty cool. They also told me about this Pueblo Mechanical and Controls, who is a leading commercial HVAC and plumbing company. And they're donating $20,000 in equipment, time, and training to partner with West-MEC to teach our students off-site commercial technology. So that's something that's kind of coming big. So that's a huge employment opportunity for our students. Jay Brooks was the one that led the presentation, and he was looking at textbooks that are written by technicians because they're easier for the students and stuff to understand. So they're also looking to acquire, like you were saying, the A2L and the NC3 certification, so that we have the necessary credentials to teach our students, our high school students and stuff. And then one of the things, Arctic Wolf Air commended Jay on his teaching how to install ductwork, which I was really surprised. You think that would be something in HVAC that you would just know, and I guess it's not being taught. And so he commended Jay for teaching our students. And then there was another gal there who was the HR manager from Marriott, but she sits on the board of Habitat for Humanity, and she wants to use our students for work-based learning. So I think that's a great opportunity for our kids. Then on the 20th, I attended the School Choice Forum, and that was held at the Arizona Children Museum. And West-MEC had a table there, and it was well attended. And so there was a lot of networking and stuff like that. It was a good event. On the 22nd, I attended the Bioscience Advisory Council. And just there's just a lot of learning opportunities through virtual from guest speakers from Banner and TGen scientists that our kids can learn from. So they're looking into Canvas e-dynamic curriculum and field trips for 2 classes with scientists on April 10th. And then they're also looking to take 2 to 3 students for job shadowing. And then they're preparing for the CTSO regional and state competitions and mock interviews. On the 25th, I went to the instructional best practices for CTE certification, and that was part 1. And this was through Joel Wakefield and Patrick Clausen, who did a fantastic job. And this class was meant for teachers from our satellite schools to complete an ADE credit so that they can continue teaching. On the 5th, I met with both Stephen and CJ, and I had been approached by Senator Shamp about EVIT has plans to build a residence hall for students that are aging out of the foster care program. And I really, it was something I started looking into, and I thought it was a good idea. But the more we look at it, I think it's something that, because they're actually having a hall for these kids to live at, but that opens up whole can of worms, because these kids may not be, star pupils or whatever. But I'd like to start doing something so that we're partnering with some of these foster group homes, and even maybe sex trafficked kids, that could use a step up and, find a positive way to be productive citizens. So I'll be working with that with several people, and we're going to be meeting again on February 13th, and you'll be seeing, weekly letters on updates on that kind of stuff. Then on the 6th, I attended the Electrical Advisory Committee via Zoom, and that was a short one. But they want to partner with a commercial based Arizona Builders Association so that our students can go directly into their apprenticeship programs after they graduate. And then they're also talking about, our industry is leaning more towards the commercial side of things. So they're kind of reevaluating the curriculum and also the lab space to accommodate that. They'll still have the home portion of the HVAC, but it'll lean more towards the commercial. And that's it.
Thank you. Ms. Wiley.
I'm just looking forward to the Paradise Valley program presentation, the very essence of why we're here. And I'm excited. I mean, look at those fine young people. Thank you, Mr. Striga.
Very good. All right. Moving on to call to the public. Just as required, this is the time for the public to comment on matters that may be of interest to the board. Members of the board may not discuss the items that are not specifically identified on the agenda. Therefore, pursuant with ARS 38.431.01, action taken as a result of public comment will be limited to directing staff to study matters or responding to any criticism. And with that, we do have one person. At this point, I would call forward Ken Dooley.
Hello, good evening, members of the board. My name is Ken Dooley. Only a few short weeks ago, I was given the opportunity to become the Student Information Specialist Tech for West-MEC. Hoping to maintain student data in focus, support calculations of ADM and other duties that I'm yet to still learn. In the time that I've been here, I've had the pleasure of actually meeting and working with all the different departments that basically make up the business. The SIS team, the IT team, the HR team, student services business. Everyone that I've met has been welcoming, wonderful, helpful, and overall just great to work with. I'm addressing you today not only to quickly introduce myself, but also to express sincere gratitude. During my onboarding, I became aware of your previous decision to actually cover and provide family health insurance for West-MEC employees. And to say that I was shocked and amazed was, well, exactly that, shocked and amazed. It's a significant benefit that is a boon to your employees, including myself. So my wife and I, we have a 3-year-old daughter who's medically fragile. Thus, the financial support that plan offers, that you offer, it's invaluable to say the least. It eases the burden of these, healthcare costs, but also ensures that my family can focus on what really matters, my daughter's health and well-being. So I appreciate that. As I continue to settle into my role here at West-MEC, I look forward to a bright future and hope that this and any other forward-thinking policy that has such a positive effect on many lives, including my own family's and all the employees of West-MEC, continues to thrive here at this wonderful district. My time has been wonderful, and the things that I've seen is a true reflection of the caring and supportive leadership that yourself and all the admin here offer. So I just wanted to express my thank you and say be well.
Thank you. Any other call to the public? We have no other cards. All right. Hearing none, we will move on to the next agenda item, Paradise Valley. Ms. Cheryl Shea.
Truly a pleasure. Members of the board, this is my first time before you, and I'm thrilled to be here, and I'm thrilled to share the experiences of my students. I am completing my 17th year as a DECA advisor. This is the 20th year actually being within Paradise Valley Unified School District. I started the marketing program and the DECA program at Pinnacle 17 years ago. And when I was recruited over, they said, well, you really need to embed DECA into what you're teaching. And I said, I don't understand that. How do I do that? I'm here to tell you today, I can't imagine my program without DECA. What we have done through the years, what my kids have accomplished through the years is amazing. And CTSO being embedded in curriculum only makes sense. And these kids will share their experiences with you. What I have with us, do you guys want to sort of expand? I'm not going to introduce each one, but they are 2, 3, 4-year students in my class. Get in however you guys were gonna, like you did at the, all right, however they practiced. And I have some students that have been with me for 4 years. I have state officer. I have one that just left ADE today to apply to be a state officer next year. They just submitted today, getting ready for competition, 20-page business plans and marketing campaigns and all that kind of stuff. So
Without further ado, these are Pinnacle DECA officers.
So we are so grateful for your time today, and we are so glad to have the opportunity to talk to you all today about the importance of career and technical student organizations, also known as CTSOs. So what DECA is an internationally recognized CTSO that prepares students both personally and professionally. And some of the ways we do that is by giving our students the opportunity to involve themselves in the 4 pillars. So as you can see, our 4 pillars are leadership, development, vocational understanding, social intelligence, and civic consciousness. So we're going to break down what these mean in the rest of our presentation.
But first, we would like to talk about what exactly our theme is this year for DECA. So every year there's a new theme, and this year is Experience the Difference, which is all about utilizing the 4 pillars of DECA in order to realize your full potential, whether that's as a student or a future in your career, and being able to really see your growth. We would love to share more about the experiences and learning opportunities that the best DECA chapter in all of Arizona has in order to experience the difference through those 4 pillars.
Who clicked? Somebody clicked? Do I click? You want me to click? I don't know, it all of a sudden came up, so. There we go.
The first pillar of DECA is leadership. Leadership is an incredibly important skill for kids to be able to boost their career explorations, as well as be able to stand out in the crowd when, say, applying for internships or finding their future and destined career. DECA invites members to conferences on the district, state, and international level, where they're able to go and network with local leaders. They're able to network with industry professionals, and they're also able to network with the state officers, which lead a organization of about, it's 5,000 people this year.
Yes.
And this is currently one of our state officers. We're able to gain lots of leadership experience, and say examples of these conferences would be Camp DECA Leadership, where we're able to go and meet with other chapters officers. We're able to hear their leadership experiences. We're able to bring their leadership and be able to merge it with ours to be able to go and create an even better chapter in the following year, and keep on impressing that in the future generations of, say, presidents, vice presidents, and so forth. DECA Fall Leadership Conference, we're able to go and gain skills and gain knowledge from industry professionals. Say Fall Leadership was at the Arizona Diamondbacks, and we were able to go and hear from sports and entertainment professionals. And then at the Ultimate DECA Power Trip, we were able to go and talk to, say, college administration, upper officials, and be able to explore the future pathways that many students can take.
I'm getting enthralled with them, I'm so proud of you.
So the next pillar is social intelligence, which is one of my favorite pillars, because this is how we get to travel across the country. DECA can take you places both figuratively and literally. It teaches us so many things while traveling, being able to learn so much about your peers, but about yourself as well. So these are just a couple of places that we've gotten to travel to in the past, or are going to travel to this coming April. So Washington, DC, Seattle, Orlando, Anaheim, Atlanta, Georgia, and Austin. Personally, my favorite is Orlando, Florida. Disney World, Universal Studios was really fun. And just being able to compete with the best of the best is exhilarating.
DECA is a massive family where members are able to bond through overnight stays, which involve vocational understanding, college preparation, and corporate networking. Members also receive the opportunity to meet other DECA members around the world and expand their network.
And our third pillar is civic consciousness. As community service director, I run all of the drives that we hold throughout the year. Currently, we have run the Dress for Success business clothing drive that empowers women to re-enter the workforce. We've done a school supplies drive for a Title I PVUSD school. We've done a hygiene drive for a homeless shelter, and we've done a toy drive for Ryan's House Hospice of the Valley, which helps children with muscular dystrophy. The Community Service Committee has also helped in writing letters to first responders, the elderly, children in hospitals, as well as your favorite teachers.
Arizona DECA provides a list of different community service acts that chapters all across the state can participate in. Our members participate in these tasks such as writing letters to the elderly or cleaning up our school in order to help Pinnacle DECA achieve the diamond level status at our state competition in community service. In 2023, Pinnacle DECA was the only chapter in all of Arizona to achieve the highest level ranking in community service at state competition.
Our final pillar is vocational understanding. This is one of my favorite because I'll do it with competition. By participating in competition, students are allowed to grow in many different areas. Our competitions have to do with 100-question exams and case study role plays. Case study role plays are very similar to having actual job, where you get to problem solve, think on your feet, and have a conversation with the judge. In these case study role plays, you learn interview skills, communication skills, and presentation skills, which can help you in many different fields. And over at the top right of your screen, you can see a case study role play an example of one that we use.
Competition is, and make sure that you tell them all five, because I don't know if we talked about that, what all the different areas are.
Oh, the 5 career clusters?
Yes.
Well, we compete in 5 different categories in marketing, finance, hospitality, management, and entrepreneurship. And competition is definitely my favorite part of DECA. It has helped me in unthinkable ways be able to take the skills that I learned in class, in Mrs. Shea's marketing class, and apply them into real world scenarios. When I applied for a job, it felt just like a DECA competition, honestly. And I've been able to take what I love and apply that into something that I can use as a career. So I love fashion. It's one of my favorite things. And I got to compete in apparel and accessories marketing at this year's International Career Development Conference with the best competitors from all around the world. And I actually took first place out of 200 competitors.
And like she said, I also am a big fan of competition. I particularly shine not with the role play case study events, but we also have these written events as well. So this year and last year, I wrote a 20-page business plan. Last year, it was about a company I created called The Veggie Guy. It was all fictitious, but I got to build it all from the ground up. And we did everything from financials, we made a marketing plan, and it was really great to kind of see all the different things that go into a business and creating a business plan that had real viable grounding. Like if I bought into a bank, I think I could have really gone alone. But yeah, it was great to, really break it down and see everything that goes into it. And I apply the skills that I learned from Miss Shea's marketing class. I've been in her class for all 4 years of high school.
Before you finish, tell her what's the 4 different classes you've taken with me.
Okay, yeah, so we have Interest in the Marketplace, Marketing 1, 2, Marketing 3, 4, and now Marketing 5, 6.
Introduction to the marketplace, business foundations, investing, economics, things like that. Marketing principles.
Yeah.
Your 3rd year.
That's when we started doing our papers, and then.
And then get Microsoft Office certified.
Obviously. And then this year, we continue with our papers, and then we are doing a lot of stuff with personal finance, so learning how to manage money, take out loans, pay for college, a bunch of different lessons. So it's really been a great experience to be able to relate to what I've learned through our classes and, make it all real almost in a business plan. And I think one day that when I go into the business world and want to start my own company, everything I've learned over the past 4 years, as a part of DECA and as a part of our class, will really come to fruition there.
And so how did you do a competition?
Oh, yeah. Last year, I also, like Sky, I won first place on the international level.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Is experience the difference. While there are many different interpretations of what this means, here's ours. To experience the difference means to travel the globe with fellow DECA to learn enough so we can compete at the international level, to push ourselves to be our best, and to take away a positive experience with DECA. So in conclusion, CTSOs have really positively impacted all of our DECA members, and Pinnacle DECA really appreciates your support in establishing and maintaining all the various programs in Arizona. And thank you all for listening to our presentation on CTSOs.
Any questions from the board? Mr. Garcia, we'll just work our way down.
I got tons of questions for you, I'm gonna simplify it. So how many seniors do we have here? What are you gonna do when you graduate?
Me?
Yes.
Okay, so I plan to go get an electrical engineering degree and then post college, I want to kind of merge my love of STEM and entrepreneurship and eventually create a technology startup company.
Oh, excellent. How many of you have ever seen a professional pitch?
I'm sure.
This is foundations class I talk about, their freshman year, they do a Shark Tank project.
Well, that's very interesting, because we do two things at the Arizona Commerce Authority. We do pitches to emerging companies that are coming in, and we also do a pitch competition. Usually it comes out of ASU, NAU, U of A. And they come out and they pitch for money. They're actually gonna get investment out of it. So, man, I could get you guys in there, especially for our big pitches. If a company that's gonna invest $1 billion in Arizona, the pitches are pretty intense. It takes us 6 months to draw up the slides just to pitch. If I could ever find a way to get you guys in there, or maybe your program, I think that would be awesome, because that's what you're doing right now. Because a lot of it's data analysis, demographic analysis, site selection. All these things go into these different plans. But anyways, you guys did a great job. I think your program's awesome. Good luck wherever you guys go.
London, tell them what this is a very focused young lady as well.
So, hi, my name is London. I want to do sports management and, yeah, I plan on studying sports management and then I want to get my MBA in JD.
Oh, wow.
And sports law, and I want to end up becoming an executive at an NFL team.
So the paper she got to write today, that she's submitting today, has to do with the Cardinals. So she made connections at the Cardinals, and it was HR. We're talking about the needs and human resources and so on, and that's what a number of these kids just did a whole research project on this past semester.
Yeah, streamlining the hiring and onboarding process of the Arizona Cardinals, making sure that they have employee engagement, activities planned, and just timeline, the metrics, how much it's gonna cost, all of that cool stuff.
So what was the most earth-shattering thing that you learned after?
The most earth-shattering thing is, despite the numerous amounts of employee shortages that other industries are experiencing, the sports industry doesn't have that problem. The Arizona Cardinals, specifically for every job opening, has 500+ applicants, and the issue is sorting through the fans versus the actual qualified candidates. So creating a streamlined plan to filter through that, whether it be a UKG system, which is the HR system that they use, or making sure you have targeted job placement on different platforms like LinkedIn, Teamwork Online, or if you're just doing it through networking, talking to people when you know someone who knows someone. So just that specifically.
Thank you.
Down, Barbara.
This probably is a strange question, but as a parent, I would like to know, one or two of you, what your parents have thought about the change in you as a high school student participating in it.
Well, Joelle and Landon are two definite growth stories.
So I'm gonna go back to actually why I even started, why I actually joined DECA in the first place. So back in 8th grade, or back even going to 7th grade, I was a really, really shy kid. It was hard for me to want to talk to people. It was hard for me to go up to someone and just start a conversation. I joined DECA because of someone's kindness. There was this girl, Olivia Lubenow, she was a previous officer. I was really shy. I didn't talk to anyone. My first class in 7th grade, I knew no one in that classroom. She went up to me and she complimented my backpack and my t-shirt, and that the fact I felt recognized and that someone like saw me was something that I was just really impacted by in that sense for being someone that was so shy. I later saw her on the Pinnacle DECA Instagram page, and I said, hey, this is an organization, she's in it, maybe I should join. So I started to go into the program. I felt so welcome by the officers. We were virtual during this time, it was COVID, and the officers were incredible. Their leadership, even though it was just virtual, was something I've never seen before. They were engaging, they were encouraging, and they were just so strong. And then in that sense, during competition, they encouraged me to keep on going. I ended up placing, I was a finalist my freshman year, but I ended up placing 6 out of 6 in the finalists. And then Suhani Rathi, she was the senior officer that encouraged me. She said, do it again next year, you can do it. I worked my butt off the entirety of sophomore year. I placed 3rd at state, and then I realized from there the impact that these previous officers had on me was the reason why I want to give back. I then served as the community service director, and now I'm the vice president of marketing, in the sense that I want to be able to share that same message that DECA had for me and what it's done for me onto the incoming.
So you're a different person.
Yeah.
And then I almost had like, I'd say the opposite story. I was always very, very outgoing.
You remember this senior class are the ones that started with me online, right? In Zoom, right, in the Google Meets. And so that's how I got to know them as freshmen, through these little squares. But he would stand out and he couldn't shut his mouth.
Yeah. I still have my talking issue, we're working through it. Yeah, no, I've always been a very big talker. I've always loved, you know, meeting new people and.
But what has your parents seen in your change and your growth?
Yeah, I was, yeah, okay. So then I ended up joining DECA because I always had an interest in entrepreneurship. And I realized that I wanted to become a leader in the organization because I resonated with it so much. So then Miss Shea really pushed me, like in ways that no other teacher ever has, and showed me that sometimes it's best to tone it down. And that when you have a voice, you can actually use it for good and use it to kind of impact and lead others. And my parents have definitely seen a difference in me from when I started my freshman year to now. I still love talking, that's never gonna change. But it's really great to be able to kind of encourage others and use my voice to kind of build camaraderie amongst our members and see how more composed allows me to be a better leader, and how I can kind of, you know, bring everyone together and, you know, connect with those people who are similar to me, different than me, have same interests, different interests, and kind of bring everyone into this organization and have everyone reap the benefits, because I believe it's so wonderful, and I think so many other people have such, they can gain from it as well, regardless of what you want to do. I'm going for an engineering degree. You might not see the relation there, but I definitely see it within my life. And I think it will definitely impact me from this point on. And I think my parents really understand how this organization has molded me into the person I am today, and I definitely see it. So thank you, Shay.
I think it's done you all. Thank you.
Paraphrase a line from an old Jack Nicholson movie. You don't even know who Jack Nicholson is. As good as it gets. You know, I'm a great believer that it starts at the top and comes down. You wouldn't be where you are today without Miss Shea. I can tell that. I can tell even by the way she went up and punched the button. The world's gonna be a better place because of the 12 of you. I do have one question. Your knowledge, your enthusiasm, your manner. Is there any opportunities for you to pass that down to the kids below you so they have a chance to get infused with your enthusiasm?
That's part of my program. I make sure that as seniors that they give back, and I remind them when they were freshmen, like Joelle said, there were those seniors that made an impact on them, and that they need to stay and help to make an impact and continue the culture of my program. So they know that my program has a reputation, and they know that they are part of continuing that reputation. And they learn about corporate culture and the way businesses do and the way they set up their mission statement and so on. They know that they are part of those ethical decisions and keeping the program as excellent as it is.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for the honor, truly.
So I have one question, and I forgot your name, going into sports.
Yeah, London.
So a question for you. This week, National Labor Relations Board made a ruling. I don't know if you saw it, involving sports. It is that college players are now considered employees of the university, and they are allowed to strike, unionize, negotiate practices, travel, and so forth.
colleges.
And it will probably kill a lot of college sports, especially smaller colleges. What does that do to pro sports? And have you had a chance to think about that?
I actually have a lot of personal experience with that. My brother actually played D1 football at Arizona State. He just transferred to Colorado to play with Dion. So not only he used to being a young business professional as I am, he used to give me his NIL contracts and I used to read them and send them to my mentors. One of them works at Stella Wilmer. So I do have a lot of insight on that, specifically when it comes to unionizing. The NCAA has to deal with those franchise players that you're now going to get, the quarterbacks at Texas, Bama, Ohio State. Are you gonna pay them more based off of the seats that they sell? Is everybody gonna get a base amount of pay and then you build on top of that? Is the NIL, usually it's a conglomerate within the university, is that gonna go along with the base salary? And are you taking away their scholarship because they're getting paid so much money? And now, even when it gets to NCAA sports, it's not just football. That's affecting women's soccer, that's affecting water polo, golf, all of these things. And is that gonna stop them from working so hard to get to the professional level? Because they're getting paid millions of dollars. Like the quarterback at USC, he doesn't even know if he wants to go into the draft because he's getting paid millions of dollars now to go to a sucky team. Like it's not, usually #1 draft picks go to the worst teams to give them a better shot at getting better. So it's a huge conversation that they're gonna have to deal with, specifically the NCAA in different conferences, conference realignment, and how that's going to change in the near future. I know at the Fiesta Bowl, I know the owner of Fiesta Bowl, the president, he's gonna start going into different teams, starting at their own. I know the top 12 is gonna be starting at their own individual stadiums and then going into the bowls. Do they get initial money for just playing in a bowl game and not opting out as usual college players do? So
I think she needs to be hired right now.
But it's
Told you she's
it's a lot of
passionate about her
different
topic.
variations that's gonna have to go into it, and college sports is supposed to be fun. You're supposed to be doing it for 4 years. And now that you're adding all of this money on top of scholarships, do they even wanna go and get a degree? Is it just about the money? So.
I gotta tell you, that's
It's
the
a lot.
beauty of DECA. You know, I've got these marketing kids, I got these entrepreneurial kids, I have finance kids, wanna go into hospitality, so many different wonderful areas. They will be CEOs, they will be directors of all kinds of things.
Share it with the ones below you. That's wonderful.
Well, that's the pillar of community service, right? The civic consciousness, realizing they're having to give back, not having to give back, but give back to the community and the importance of that and how they can make an impact. We're in my marketing class right now. They're gonna be learning about all the different, not this, well, who's in 1, 2? Okay, they just picked a franchise and they're gonna learn about the economic impact of the Cardinals, of the Suns, of the Phoenix Rising, and the NCAA and the Final Four coming and all that kind of stuff, and understanding how all these charities and what they do mean to our communities. And it's not just about the athletes, it's about all the other jobs that are being created and the tourism that is brought to specifically this quarter in the year, right? January, February, March.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. I don't know if you get this caliber kid every month, but thank you for allowing me to present them to you. And anytime you want to come to Pinnacle High School and hear them make their presentations and get ready for competition, you're welcome to come on in. Okay, you let me know. February 21st, 10:30 a.m. to noon. Let me know if you're available. You can come on in. Okay? Oh, they want you to see. Go back, they want you to see what this is. This is a tradition that I do. There's finalists, test medals, role plays, and this is at the state. This year, for the first time internationally, I got to do that other picture. That was international, which is huge.
Wow.
So that's what they're proud of.
As they should be.
They
should. Yes, thank
Can I
you.
take them home?
Yes, you can. Yes, you guys don't have to stay.
Thank you so much.
Thank you for being here.
You want to stay for a review of 30 policies?
That's President. Calder Superintendent. Outstanding. Pinnacle High School.
I had.
Yeah, I know. Hey, so very good. Thanks, Paradise Valley. Moving on, recognitions and celebrations. Mr. Welch.
Good evening, Chairperson Straka, Governing Board members, Superintendent. You know, what you just saw there, of course, was amazing, right? And accurately represents our students across the consortium. But it doesn't just happen. It happens purposefully because of the teachers in our program. Similarly, in January, Dr. Spurgeon shared with you our first semester, the fall semester, was the best semester yet. When you look at our student attendance, when you look at our retention, best in the state as far as retention goes. Our credentialing of students, best in the state, even beat West-MEC's previous records. That is because of our teachers, the amazing teachers that we have in our programs at West-MEC, both in our satellite programs as well as our central programs. But tonight I have the good fortune to recognize one of our central teacher, one of our central program teachers. It really is a testament to our core value of teachers make the difference. And that is tonight, Eric Phi, our welding teacher at the, Eric, if you come join me, welding teacher at the Southwest campus. He opened up that campus, helped design that space. And he is recognized from the American Welding Society, AWS, which is the credentialing body for welding students. So it's, I mean, it's one thing to get education award. It's another thing to have industry really recognize the quality and contributions of one person. This is not an award, it's not an annual regular award. It was just something that AWS said, what in the heck is happening in Southwest Arizona? And looked into it and saw that Eric Phi was credentialing people into the industry and creating a pipeline into the industry like no other, and wanted to honor him with this award that you see in front of you, that we are very proud to present to Eric tonight.
You want to do a board picture?
Yeah,
Yes.
if you don't mind.
How long have you been with us?
With you, with West-MEC?
Yeah.
Since 2015.
Eric also serves the state as the president for the Association of teachers representing welding and other trades areas, so. Yeah.
Dedicated.
You're gonna.
Earn that. Thank you.
Thank you. Let's fix it. That's coming out. There you go.
We got, you're so excited. We got this, mate. Get ready.
All right. You want more? Thank you.
Thank you.
Congratulations.
Thank you. Congratulations. Thank you.
Well, all of our teachers are special at West-MEC, but Eric really is special, so it's neat to see him get this award tonight. In that same vein of industry, right? What Eric was recognized for was his ability to lead students to credential and really make them career ready. On that same vein, as Mr. Garcia already mentioned, the Office of Economic Opportunity recently recognized West-MEC with the 2024 Best of Class Convener Award, recognizing the difference that West-MEC is making in connecting industry with a pipeline, a talent pipeline. Specifically in that example, Dr. Spurgeon and CJ and Jared and other leadership with TSMC, creating that pipeline for the semiconductor industry. The work that's happening with advanced manufacturing. Dr. Spurgeon's talked to you frequently about Nestle or Power, those types of things. That work is what was recognized by this award. So congratulations to West-MEC, and I really want to thank Mr. Garcia's leadership with the Commerce Authority and making sure that West-MEC always has a place at those tables. It's really made a profound difference under Dr. Spurgeon's leadership. Thank you. And then finally, right, as like all these awards are great, and it's neat that more and more people are recognizing what's happening at West-MEC. But so much of that is because our story is being told. And those that craft that story, that use different media outlets and mechanisms to craft our story and tell that narrative out there in the community, also is our final celebration tonight and was recognized. And I just want to do a big shout out to our communications team and Chris Cook. They will, where did he go? He's always in the shout out. But Chris Cook and the communications team, they will be recognized tomorrow by ASPRA, that is the Arizona School Public Relations Association, specifically for our annual impact report, which you have seen and is truly amazing. Like, I've never seen an impact report jump out at the page like that one does. As a matter of fact, we've had several school districts see it and come to like get PD and learn how to do it and work with our communication specialists and how to make that happen. And in addition, the Why I Hire West-MEC series, that was another just great leadership item when Dr. Spurgeon came in, working with our communications team on this video series. And that is being recognized tomorrow with an award as well. So congratulations to our communications team and Chris Cook. Thank you.
All right. It's gonna be tough to beat, Mr. Heath. Southeast Campus Design Phase update.
I don't have much to say, but DLR does. So Chairman Straka, members of the board, Superintendent Spurgeon. We are here tonight to update you on the planning phase of Southeast Campus. I don't have much to say in this, but DLR does. So without further ado, Matt and you're done.
Thanks, Matt. Thank you. Good evening. Nice to see you, President Straka, governing board members, superintendent. We're excited to be here to talk a little bit about what we've done so far. Since you've seen me last, we've been very busy on our master plan effort. We've been visiting with a lot of people and listening to try to get some of the best foot forward for the design. So, is there a clicker here? Okay. So this is a quick just snapshot of the process that we have so far worked through. We did our first part where we called information gathering. We attended the Superintendent Institutional Advisory Commission meeting. We looked at comparable projects with the planning team. We did some campus listening tours. We went to each campus, and then we took that information and gathered together with both the planning team at West-MEC, but also a larger group, what we call a charrette. It's an architectural term that we use too easily, but it's basically a big old workshop, right? A lot of best ideas can come forward. And then we took that information and synthesized it into some visualization for the master plan design. So we're going to share a lot of that with you today. The first being, again, that institutional advisory council that we met with. This was really early in the process. We were just looking from general feedback from the industry partners about what is working well with West-MEC and what are the opportunities that are ahead of us with the Southeast campus. So we did this little exercise. I wonder, we partner. There's some great complementary things that are happening on your existing campus and partnerships. So people are very excited in the industry about what you are doing right now and want to keep that going. Some of the wonder came from, how can maybe adult education step up to upskilling or reskilling their workforce, because they're seeing that as a need. And the partnerships seem to be a little bit more focused on what are the immediate adjacencies, right? With Banner Health nearby, the entertainment district nearby, all that development that's going on. Maybe there's some opportunities for partnership on this campus that are a little unique. Next, we went to all 4 campuses. We got to talk with students and staff alike. We had about 100 participants on kind of small group sessions, but we did have all programs represented when we went and chatted with these individuals. A lot of the information we got was program specific, because if you're in a welding program, that's going to be where your expertise is on what current West-MEC welding is like. And some of it was site specific, but we were also looking for cultural feedback. So our hope was that we could get some of the best of what is working well, keep that within the Southeast campus. What can we improve on? Let's make it better, right? And get that feedback. And I felt like we had some really great, honest conversations. Each of your campuses has a a unique culture in itself. But everyone was really open and engaging, and I really appreciated that. Some of the common feedback that we got on a larger scale is the students just love being part of their professional environments. They really enjoy their lab spaces. Like, they don't want to leave the labs. They like that hands-on activity that they're allowed to participate in. Some of the things that they wonder about are the common spaces. How can the different programs and pathways interact on the campus? With those inside and outside environments, just some of the benefits of daylight and fresh air when you're inside and when you're outside, like shade and seating, things like that. So you have the list here, but it was a great feedback that we received. From there, we had some larger charrettes just next door. Again, these are those workshops that we had. We invited students and staff. We had about 60 people, I think, in these charrettes. And we asked them to just vision, what do you want the Southeast campus to be, and what can we really take away as some of the project goals? So we called it the challenge statement. Some things that rose to the top in all the groups that we talked with was collaborative space, safe and accessible campuses, and then the state of art facility. So we know that West-MEC has great expertise in CTE, but just to continue that above industry standard mentality. And then the second time we brought everyone together, we really focused on the specifics. We had some general direction from leadership about what programs might be in phase 1 or overall. Some of it's just future to be determined, but we gave some actual areas and square footages. We gave them parts and pieces to play with. Each table had an aerial site map, and they got to essentially lay out all the spaces. How do you address the campus? How do you address the site? And from that, we got some really great conversation. We got feedback. All 5 tables that we had gathered around these had 5 completely different solutions, right? Which is wonderful. That's what we want. And so each one, we asked them to give a name for their design that they've created and kind of what their focus or emphasis might be that they were looking at. So we pulled some of these ideas out of those visioning sessions. Like the open house really talked about a central collaboration space, having the warehouse, which is a facility necessity, but how can it really integrate within the campus and support it and be near it? The headliner really talked about the opportunities of the 101 and how to project an attractive image of the building for all those passerbys and really promote West-MEC and their programs. The spokes talked about the equity of programs. They wanted that visibility of the programs and the access of the programs to everything. So like making sure that everyone feels that their program is just as important as everyone else's on the campus. The collab matrix talked a lot about those inside and outside common areas, how could those interweave and connect to the different pathways. And the last, the hub, talked a little bit about the event center. We talked about this as a educational space that could also double as an after-hour space, be part of the campus so that they can use it for their daily needs, but then also act independently after hours for some opportunities to really work within the community. So we got, I think, amazing feedback. We're very excited for what we heard and the momentum that we received from that. Like I said, we went away with that feedback. Matt is one of our principals and CTE designers, and we went back to our own office and took that and started early master plan design.
And essentially, that's where the magic happens, where we kind of started off and, as Katrina said, a lot of great conversations with, so a lot of them coming from students, actually, by the way, a lot of these ideas like collaboration, open spaces, visibility, looking into labs and just building that excitement at the facility. So that was our main challenge that we were tasked with, is how do we take all these amazing ideas from the workshops and magically assemble them onto the site. You can see some diagrams here already of all these different colors and different pathways kind of starting to come together, but also it's a building, right? It's functional, there's utilities, there's circulation, so all these other and safety factors that we have to consider as architects and designers creating this master plan to really culminate this into an idea to go forward. And so this is an earlier diagram that we started with, again, taking all those best ideas forward, where you can see how now the programs are starting to stack together into a cohesive idea that relates to the site and starts to address some of the design challenges, like circulation. We know there's a lot of traffic and there's some issues on some other campuses. So how can we smartly plan for it on this new southeast campus so that it's not a topic of discussion, and instead, you know, the topic of discussion is we're excited about Taiwan Semiconductor or somebody like that, you know? And so we looked at all these different metrics on how the different pieces and parts work on the site, from having a secure entry, welcoming students in so they feel safe and secure, you know, a single point of security is part of that. How do we create views and utilize the wonderful climate that we have in Arizona to have outdoor learning? So connections from the inside of the building to outdoor learning spaces. And also that part of that's maximizing the dollar for what you can build, you know, for this money as well. Certainly security as it comes up in every school design. We're definitely experts in that, and I can't tell you how many times that comes up during design. But designing it such that it doesn't look like a prison, you know, having it open and welcoming, right? If we've done that, you know, I think we're doing a good job. And then finally, you know, just even though, you know, we'll have a phase one, which is the Southeast campus, and then the master plan, which addresses everything else. But are we still leaving room on the site for future growth? So we're trying to future-proof all these ideas into the design. So a lot of different layers of thinking have already gone into to kind of put us to where we're at now. And so these are some very early images. Obviously, they're not like finished renderings, you know, nothing's ready to build. We're still looking forward to a lot of input going forward. But what's important with the master plan, at least we can set the place where all the parking, where the phase one is gonna go. Make sure we get all that stuff right. So then when the bond comes and we build the rest, it all just kind of falls into place. And so just knowing, you know, how proud West-MEC is of all the campus, and Katrina and I have had the pleasure of working on many previous campuses, but how important it is with the strong branding that you've established. I mean, you're a national leader in that, and we look for West-MEC, and our other clients we work with look to West-MEC as a continual example, as a national leader in a lot of this. So you can see, obviously it's orange, right? You're driving by it on the freeway, you know, you're right on the 101, an amazing site. So that was one of the big priorities, is how do we take advantage of that amazing site, and how do we plug in to all of the magical growth that's happening along the 101 corridor in the West Valley. So the image on the left just shows an overall kind of idea of how all these pieces and parts might come together. The images on the right, the one on the upper right shows the idea of the entry. Is there a way to create a welcoming entry, you know, with some shade, you know, makes students feel comfortable, doesn't overwhelm them when they're coming in, but as I said, welcomes them in, creates a safe and comfortable place before and after upon coming into the campus. And then the lower image there certainly is all about the freeway. Again, how do we take advantage of this unique position and this amazing site to really showcase all of the magical programs and stuff that West-MEC is doing. And I talked about the master plan. So the image on the left would be the idea of the full and complete build out for the campus. But really right now, after this, we're hoping to focus more deeply just on phase one. Assuming that everything falls into place. I think we're in a pretty good place right now overall, just based on all the input, you know, we've heard from the workshops and the leadership team here. I think we're in a really great place. I'm super excited. Next slide. And then certainly phase one, just knowing that it still has to stand alone as an independent building for a while. But we want it to be an exciting building, obviously, for the bond coming up. We don't want it just to be phase one and that's it, because we see, you know, obviously everybody sees a much larger future for this site to fully take advantage of it. And then most importantly are the education spaces themselves. These are just some early ideas of, based on what we've heard a lot from the students in the workshops, saying we want views looking down into the shop spaces. We want views looking into other pathway spaces. One of the common themes on a lot of the campuses we saw was the fact that when a student comes in onto a campus, say for welding, they only see and experience welding. they may not see, say, advanced manufacturing or some of the other pathways. And certainly the walking distance, and then you add into that parking and security and all these other issues that come with kind of a more spread out campus. So that was a major theme that we heard, and as a reaction to that, we're trying to plan a much more compact and dense campus and a much more rich experience. So when a student comes in, say for health sciences and looks across and sees construction trades, they immediately might think, oh, maybe I didn't come here for health sciences. I'm really interested in construction trades. I mean, who knows? But that's the whole point of it. That's the trend that we're seeing across the country and a lot of big career center projects like that as well. And so we're just really excited, you know,
The
bring that.
students are even talking about like studying in the same space and like learning from each other and what their programs are doing. And the teachers are talking a lot about, we learned a lot about what they see as important adjacencies with their classrooms and labs.
Ironically, I have a granddaughter that was on one of the campuses last year. And she said one of the best parts of it was that they had all of the different careers had break at the same time. So that they could mix and talk to these people and find out about the other careers.
We heard that a lot, but depending on which campus you're on, some of them, to your point, they felt like they were going into health sciences break area, right? Or health science lab, they were going into autos break area, like they still had like these individual ownership rather than something that was a little bit more collaborative. Some of the students I heard were really interested in having a study space where they could study adjacent, someone in a different pathway, but then maybe they can strike up that conversation and hear a little bit more what's going on in the campus itself in their own pathway. So that was interesting. And then even the staff that we had talked to, we heard some adjacency, pathway specific adjacencies. Like there are some pathways where they, you know, they want to work in their classroom and lab, have students in both and have that visibility and that connection where they can do that, where they maybe don't have it right now. So we were hearing how like they currently are functioning without something that they could really benefit from change, right? So I thought that was really helpful and that helped us lay out a lot of the spaces to make sure that we're listening to what can help improve that connectivity.
Even after hearing the DECA students speak about how do you do a pitch? You know, how do you work with people in big corporate companies and that sort of thing? You know, I've heard other districts call that the harder skills. You know, you got the hard skills, which are just the hard certifications, you know, how to turn a wrench, do it, you know, that sort of thing. But the other skills, collaboration is just as important to be successful. So I was really inspired hearing what they had to say.
And so these were just some of the images, and sorry if I cut you off earlier.
Yep.
Of those lab spaces and how there's that connectivity. You have some great programs that need that open, large space, but then how can you create that visibility between the classrooms? Just last thing, schedule next steps. We're completing our master plan now, so we're done with that phase, and now we're moving into phase one. So where you saw the first, what's currently under the bond, we have that portion that we're ready to kick off our schematic design development next, all the construction documents that we need to go into construction, hopefully at the end of the year. We'll have our documents done prior as just regulatory review, and then we'll be starting up December, January for construction if all goes as planned.
So you did say something about future growth. I think I counted like there was like 4 different buildings.
Well, there's several different parts, you know, that we're looking at. When it's all done, the idea is it's all one cohesive experience. So there might be areas where you're, you know, partially going outside to go inside another building, but we're thinking of it very much as one experience that connects all the pathways together.
I think currently we're looking at this as one of your larger campuses for sure. So it may not need that future growth, but we also don't want to pigeonhole us in the sense that if your program does expand and you need that, we have the space to do it, especially some of those large lab areas. If I know that, you know, automotive, if it picks up, I heard it picked up power sports, right? And so that it put them in a smaller space in that regard. But if you have the growth to be able to add on, at least you have the option as those programs develop, right?
And I did see something was this, what do they call it? The spoke?
Yeah, that was one of them.
That was, yeah, it was kind of creative.
It was literally arranged like a bicycle wheel. And that came from the input that they really wanted that equity of programs. They wanted everyone to have equal access and that central connectivity. physically with the square footages, it didn't necessarily make the most sense to completely replicate, but the idea and the intent was understood. And
Yeah, it was really cool. They probably wouldn't work in real life.
it was a challenge, yeah. Yes, of course, so
Who's responsible for the footprint?
in what regard? Like how it's laid out or the square footage amounts?
No, the layout.
Oh, that would be our team. Our team workshopped it.
Yeah, I mean, we have a whole team of people, but ultimately it's me.
Well, I read in there as we went along, we wanted to enhance the value of the property along 101. 2/3 of that is a parking lot.
I think we're using the opportunity of the 101. I mean, unfortunately, we need a lot of parking for the amount.
I understand that, but do we have site restrictions with connections and water? You know, people fly up and down there. Most of the time they'll see a parking lot. Wouldn't it be a wonderful time to express our
If you could put all the buildings along 101 is what you're suggesting?
more
of them?
More of them, you know, there's gonna be restrictions on retainage and adjacent
would
ways
shift, you
and
would-
parking and exit and entrance, I got that. But when we were going to look at that important part along the 101, and I saw that 2/3 of it, the cars would see a parking lot.
You just have to get access to the access road.
So there's a few different factors that we
I want to know.
put into consideration. I think first and foremost, having one secure entry has the parking on one side. Second of all, you know, we look at building orientation, right, for maximum energy efficiency and building performance. And so that means a lot of the pieces actually want to be flowing east to west, not north to south.
Give you the best daylight that you'll get from and
So-
energy conservation.
and then
as well.
you-
So like, it doesn't cost anything to arrange the building. It just helps you make sure that you're using your energy efficiency, yeah.
And then you factor on that, the students in these outdoor learning environments. Would a student want to be working out next to a freeway facing west in the summer, Phoenix?
Well, if the building were protecting them from the 101, then it wouldn't be a problem.
But then now you're putting all your shops at the entry, so also you're not really creating a user experience to come in through the service spaces, right? That a lot of the shops end up having. So we looked at, to Matt's point, there was the orientation when it comes to the site, and then there was the user orientation. If you notice the north parking lot, which is basically the shops and the industrial, the the delivery area. That kind of also shelters to the north. So the 101 isn't being exposed to the dirty spaces. The students aren't having to work outside where it's louder. There's a lot of benefits of having a little shelter from the 101 for those outside spaces.
You can do that with buildings.
You can, yes.
But she's saying that would be like the.
This is one of the ways. I mean,
Yeah.
you were right that there's 20 ways it's gonna get. Yeah.
And you know, if you're gonna highlight West-MEC from the 101, I think there are better ways to do it than the parking lot.
Want to show your little fly through, show what it looks like coming north and south on 101?
We don't have that loaded.
Yeah, we don't have that in our presentation. I think the other way we're thinking about it is really focusing on that end as being an event center. Where we have some really creative ideas of what to do in terms of displaying the programs digitally. So even though it may not, that could be not only just this campus, by the way, it could be other campuses, you know, all of West-MEC's campuses, because this is the flagship campus. So focusing, you know, that on this idea of this billboard in a very deliberate part of the site. Because as you know, there is a big digital billboard right now that we have no control over on the south end of our site too.
I get that, and I'm all for digital billboards and signage. I'm all for if we have to erect, what's it going to cost, $150 million, whatever it is. That we utilize that to highlight West-MEC. So that every time a car goes up and down 101, that's West-MEC.
They're gonna see it.
Wait,
I think they're gonna see a lot of parking lot though also.
yes, for.
Too much, way more parking lot than facility. That's just, I'm done.
Okay.
Uh,
Point has been taken.
Anyone else? Before I go. So one of my questions is, we've had some initial conversations over the years that this building isn't efficient. and it's not probably a long-term plan for West-MEC. Are we still looking at relocating the administration building to the southeast campus? Have we had that conversation at all?
We haven't had that conversation at all. Mr. Calderbach was the first person to bring that to my attention, and that hasn't happened since he left.
So if we want to think about that, this is probably a time to, would we want to relocate? Our offices aren't efficient. This building is not, Mr. Heath will tell us, I'm sure, that there's better buildings out there than this one. This one serves our needs, but do we want to take advantage of that?
We can also take a look at the 30 acres across from Central Campus at a later date as well. So we have a couple of options, I think.
Didn't we have some other land over here also?
Just
We own the strip next
Yeah,
to,
we own this little-
and it's all the way up something. So that, one of the things I saw, if you could go back a couple slides where it was showing the collaboration area.
Internal?
Yeah, that one. On the bottom right-hand side, I see a lot of walls. That has really gotten away from corporate America. DHL, more than 20 years ago, got rid of offices and walls, even for the CEOs, to enhance collaboration. And a lot of companies have embraced that there's no walls. It's just, you can look across. When I worked at Carvana, you could look across the whole building. All you had was meeting rooms. Nobody had an office, not even the CEO. Michael Bloomberg. Well, Bloomberg got rid of all the walls. He doesn't even have an office. And so I think if this is an opportunity for more collaboration, let's kind of move toward the best way to collaborate, and that is low desks where you see people across from you to collaborate and have communications, because just like the classes when they let out, you'll need for a classroom, but in common areas, I wouldn't want to see any walls because it's more collaboration.
So, yeah, what you're actually seeing there is the advanced manufacturing lab area. So there's actually 3 lab spaces in there. There'd be a machine tool, and then one for robotics, and then one for perhaps a future program. And then behind that, where you see the solid wall, is restrooms, lockers, and actually behind that, I'm getting into a lot of detail, would be the welding area. Of course, all this is still moving because we're not even in schematic design yet. But the idea is, I mean, certain spaces do have to be separated because of fumes and sounds and that sort of thing. But we've definitely tried to maximize that transparency.
Yeah, because so as long as the collaboration, so what you're here, I think what you're saying is, what I'm saying is kind of the plan. But what I'm looking at, we're dividing up for safety reasons, which I'm fine with.
Yeah, and we'll dial that in even further. That's we're not in schematic design yet. We're still planning on having advisory groups weigh in on every program that we're looking at more specifically and dialing those details. So I think that we're on the same page with you. We absolutely believe in those open collaboration spaces. So everywhere that it is feasible and appropriate, we'll make sure we do that.
Yeah, and really all the new, I don't want to call them startups, but like the Googles, and they all,
Current way that people are working.
that's how everybody works. It's, you don't have an office.
But that doesn't mean they're right. I've only been around 60 years.
I know.
10 years from now, they'll be putting up all the walls again.
But they're making money more than everybody else. And then maybe, Dr. Spurgeon, I would say you probably need to come up with a, hey, are we gonna stay here? Do we think we should move to Southeast Campus, or should we go somewhere? Because if we want to go to Southeast Campus, I think you need to get the board that direction. But I think that's, or stay here.
I agree with you.
But let's, if we're gonna do it, we should have it part of the plan, but if we're gonna go somewhere else.
And look at the possibilities. If we can't do it now, how can we integrate it later on?
Because it shouldn't cost much, because.
And do we need to?
Good point.
Do we need to? And if we do, what does it look like? And the money you get out of these are probably worth more than.
Need to look at it.
That was really all my comments. And then maybe just as we go to design, I know you've talked about energy efficiency. Are there any ways to conserve water without building the $200,000 retention system that we don't really use?
That hasn't been part of these conversations. That was the past leadership.
Thank you.
All right, thank you. Yep.
We're not using that land long.
All right. Mr. Williams. How are we doing?
Good afternoon, Chairman Straka, members of the board, Superintendent Spurgeon. This used to be such a unassuming little spot on the agenda, and I had no competition, but we've really stepped up this part of the agenda with some serious competition. I am all about National Fill in the Blank Day. So this is National Fettuccine Alfredo Day. But I say that because more importantly, we've had some celebrations. This is National School Counselor Week. We had the month of January, which was National School Board Recognition Month. And I think that is often understated. The volunteer role that you play for schools is very important. So we appreciate you. And that was put out, and Dr. Spurgeon spoke on that on our social media platforms as well. And then February is CTE month. So we get to celebrate the great things that are CTE all month long. With that, I'll talk about some of our business development initiatives over the last month since we last met. We pulled in, and this goes in with the presentation that you just saw, representatives from John F. Long Properties to really provide them with an overview of our plans for the Southeast Campus. Tim and Sean from John F. Long Properties came in, and we were able to walk through a very similar presentation with the contractor and the architect for the Southeast Campus. One, because they've got incredible expertise that they can bring as the site developer, but they have rich history with West-MEC, and it was really John F. Long's vision for the West Valley and the role that West-MEC would play in training a workforce that could live and work in the West Valley. So we thought it honored that relationship, and it proved very fruitful. Dr. Spurgeon was able to make some good connections, as well as the architect and contractor for the project, working with their developers directly, who have a long history, a long-standing relationship with the city of Phoenix, and others that may hold things up down the road. They'll help to move us through that process. A few weeks ago, I also had the opportunity to represent Dr. Spurgeon with the City of Surprise and their update with the Greater Phoenix Economic Council, GPEC, of which he's a member of the board, and was able to just provide an update on West-MEC, all the new metrics that we had at semester and the great achievements that we're realizing across our campuses and all of our satellite programs, and they were absolutely blown away. And it was another opportunity to really highlight our partnership with the City of Surprise, but our sheer presence there really highlighted that partnership, that they would invite us. It was their update to the GPEC board, but West-MEC was the only partner that they invited to attend that and represent as a partner in the great work that we're doing with the City of Surprise. So we appreciate them and thank Dr. Spurgeon for letting me be a part of that. And then at the risk of getting a little political, I just want to again recognize the value of our relationship with the Arizona Commerce Authority, the OEO. I know that anytime these agencies are up for renewal, it draws some attention, and I don't want to get involved in that conversation. All I can say is that we have benefited greatly from our relationship with the Arizona Commerce Authority and the Office of Economic Opportunity. We're able to be on the front end of those conversations with industries that are looking to locate here and offer a more better prepared workforce that they're going to need when they land here, as opposed to trying to be reactive to getting them a workforce. So that's on the business development front. Legislatively, everybody loves a comeback story, and there's no better one than that of Pluto. And the comeback kid that formerly was a planet and then got reclassified to a dwarf planet is making a comeback through the state legislature, and has moving quite rapidly, actually, as the official state planet of Arizona. So our elected officials at the Capitol are overruling the International Astronomical Union and getting it its planet status back. and recognizing it as our state planet. So one of the more lighthearted bills. One of the more lighthearted bills happening at the Capitol. But it's good to recognize those as well. Some of the more heavy duty bills that we're tracking and paying attention to at the Capitol. One is, Board Member Garcia, you'll appreciate, I think we'll all appreciate the Purple Star School designation bill that's really working through the process quickly. That's SB 1405. And it would designate military-friendly schools as defined by state requirements as Purple Star schools, and would support those unique situations that military families face. And I didn't realize that we had over 20,000 school-aged children of active military families in Arizona. So that's a great bill that's working through the process. Our bill, when I say our bill, I'm speaking to the statewide CTED consortium, SB 1456, which is that fourth year funding cleanup bill, was heard today in the Senate Ed Committee and passed out of that committee 7-0 with full support of the committee. Again, we ran this last year. The concern was the fiscal note that was triggered came in at about $40 million. We did not agree with that amount. We thought it would be far less, but what we're running this year is a cleanup bill that would provide some allowances for that, so that it was not a costly bill, that it would change the persistence requirement for a ninth grade to be funded when they're enrolled in an approved program their sophomore year. And then it changes the statewide regional in-demand list to, or it changes the regional in-demand list to a statewide in-demand list with final approval by the Quality Commission, CTE Quality Commission. So that's moving its way through, but it did that last year. So it went through the Senate pretty quickly, and then it stalled out in the House. So we'll see, but with full support, and Senator Bennett's sponsoring that bill on behalf of the state CTEDs. House Bill 2437 is graduation requirements. That's out of the Department of Ed, and would require a statewide assessment passing score, or pass score on a technical skills assessment, or the earning of an industry recognized credential or certificate. So, and or those options would be required for graduation in Arizona. I think there's mirror bills in both the House and the Senate, and I didn't write down the Senate bill, but I do think that one has a mirror bill on the Senate side as well. I share this because I appreciated that this came to our attention by way of one of our instructors, but there's a dental assisting bill that would allow dental assistants to perform radiography procedures without having to pass the associated exam. But they would be able to complete a continuing ed course and be able to perform those responsibilities. So this was of concern to one of our instructors who is in the industry and preparing the future of that industry. And I thought it was nice that they're engaged and paying attention to legislation that could impact their industry, and brought it to our attention. So we continue to advocate for consumer safety. We continue to advocate for credentials and certificates that demonstrate a professional has been appropriately trained to deliver services. As such, we are opposed to that legislative change. That is House Bill 2639. House Bill 2668 is middle school CTE. This one kind of snuck up on us a little bit, and Representative Aguilar is running this. It would provide for CTE programming at the 6th, 7th, and 8th grade levels. On its surface, sounds great, and we don't have a formal position on this. I think what the bill is lacking is clarity on funding, how that gets paid for. We certainly would hope to see that whole 9th grade funding get figured out before we venture down into 6th, 7th, and 8th grade CTE funding. But we certainly support career exploration and career literacy at the elementary levels, and however we can partner to do that. We've got great initiative happening within West-MEC and our member districts to make that happen. But just need a little more clarity, I think. I don't know that this is gonna move or go anywhere, but just putting it on your radar because it is a CTE bill. Yes.
Yes, sir. So, on that note, if they did do something like that, do we have any plans to increase our bandwidth in that age group?
The bill does allow for them to enter into an IGA with a CTED or a community college to provide those career tech ed programs. Bandwidth would need, we don't currently have the bandwidth, but we could expand our capacity to serve, but again, as it sits right now, there's no funding for that, so I don't know how that would happen.
It's kind of like the precursor to something bigger.
Could be. The last one that I'll share, which I did provide you the Senate fact sheet, just so that I didn't have to go through the whole rundown of it, but it's the Title 15 cleanup, which I've got to give credit because a couple months ago I shared with you that I didn't think it was going to get where it got, but it certainly has. Senator Bennett has convened a good cross-section of stakeholders to really dig into Title 15, all things education. And Senate Bill 1654 is that, and I provided you with that fact sheet just so you could look at that. It did pass out of the Senate Ed Committee today 5-2, with the 2 no votes recognizing that they'll have an opportunity to support it on the floor with a couple of changes. I think their changes were focused on some accountability. The intent of the cleanup is not to reduce accountability or transparency. It's just to achieve more efficiency because that title has only ever been added to and never taken away. And there's a lot of redundancy and reporting that I think is not current. So with that, I would stand for any questions.
Any questions, Mr. Garcia?
Is there any impact to the budget with West-MEC, with the state's budget deficit? Have you heard anything that's gonna impact us at all?
No.
Maybe that'll catch us off guard or any funding that you think will be held up by this whole thing? No.
No, so the Mr. Straka and Board Member Garcia, the governor in her executive draft budget proposal did outline ways that she would make up for that $450 million deficit. Clawback with schools was not in there at all. So our funding FY24 is secure. Yep.
Good to hear.
Anything else? Thank you, Mr. Williams. All right. Moving on to section G, the consent agenda. Before I entertain a motion, is there anything anybody would like pulled? Ms. Wiley?
No, not today.
Fabulous. I would entertain a motion to approve the consent agenda.
I'll second.
Oh, I need a motion.
A motion, okay, motion. to
Ms.
approve
Bosom
agenda.
made the motion. Is there a second? There will be no discussion?
Sure.
Thank you, Mr. Miglerino. All right, moving on. Thank you, Ms. Brown. Moving on to section I, action and discussion items. Employee contract language fringe benefit. Package 2425. Ms. Mays, come on up.
I'm already here. Good evening, Chairman Straka, members of the governing board. What you have before you is the contract language that we would like to use when we issue contracts, notices of appointment for the upcoming school year. So this is the framework for the contract language. We still obviously will have conversations with the board, hopefully in March, where we can determine what, if any, salary increases employees will receive. But this will be the framework for the contract when we actually issue. So I'm here to answer any questions that you might have.
I do have one more sentence I'd like to add to it. Talking to legal counsel, we'd like to add a provision on the 12-month contract. Did they mention this to you?
Yes.
And basically the wording is the superintendent has authority to adjust the numbers of hours and days of the contract for July. So as long as a total weekly, and what this essentially does is it allows Dr. Spurgeon to adjust to a 410 work week where it benefits the district. Because right now, nothing in policy allows him to adjust the number of days on the contract, only the work week.
Can I jump in real quick? We asked that question and legal counsel put it inside the motion itself. That's where they wanted to put it rather than putting it in the body of the contract. So the motion at the end there says authorize the superintendent to adjust employee work week during the month of July. And what this really means is that we have some partner districts that work 410s in the summertime in July and nobody's working on Fridays. We only have a short window of time because our teachers work through the end of June and only have a couple of weeks in July. So what Mr. Straka was asking is, why can't West-MEC just work 410s when everybody else is closed in that 2-week period of time to go along with the same partner district, which is perfect, which is great. But by contract, if it says they work 220 days, if I don't have the authority by the board to be able to modify that, we can't work 410s. Got it. That makes sense?
Yep.
Yeah, I mean, it's a no-brainer, but where it fits, it gives him the authority to do it. That's all.
So if all of our partner districts are off on Friday, what are we doing? It's only 2 Fridays, but if I gave them those days off, their 220 day contract, they'd be working 218, which violates the contract of the teachers.
Yeah.
Employees.
Yeah.
Just makes sense.
Any other questions?
So moved.
Moved by Mr. Miglerino, seconded by Ms. Bosom, Mr. Garcia. Any further discussion? All right, we can move on. It passes 5. Ms. Mays, why don't you just stay up here for a while? So approval of the 24-25 employee hiring ranges. Is there any change to the ranges or are these the same as last year?
There is one change to the range, Chairman Straka, for the column of Administrator 4, Assistant Superintendent, Director of Government Relations and CFO. That range has been changed if the governing board approves to a range of 134,000 to 150,000 as the new amount.
Okay. And that is just so we can compete, that's my
We can
understanding.
remain competitive. And hey, we got some good news. So hopefully our CFO, our new CFO, who's here this evening, you'll get a chance to meet. It will be a competitive range to make sure that we retain a great CFO.
So moved.
Is there a second? I'll second. Okay, Ms. Wiley seconds. Hearing no more discussion, we'll call for the vote. All right. All right, we're ready for Mr. Heath.
Members, let me jump in real quick. Before you get started, Matt, and did you come in and meet with Matt about the CMAR process? He's put together a really lengthy document of 39 slides, I think, or so, that really outlines the entire process. It's really probably too large to send to you, but we have it available. I mean, I can make it available, but it's fantastically done. If you have any questions, it outlines the entire process. So I just don't know what you want me to do with it. I can't send it over the email, 'cause it's too big, but I can figure out a way to get it to you somehow. But it's very well done. Just want to mention that.
Thanks.
Oh, you can't send it to even our West-MEC email, can you? Because then we could download it.
Okay, well, I'll talk with technology, see if there's a way.
There's gotta be a, if you could tell us where it is in a Google Doc, we could pull it out for. Well, some of us don't. So if you could maybe poll the board who'd like paper and who would like an off the Google Doc, we could do that.
Yeah, you can mail it to me, that'd be great. You want a hard copy? Google hard copy, we can just mail them to you.
I'll take the Google Doc.
Okay, I knew you. It's just a PowerPoint.
Paper, electronic.
I guess. After you review, if you have questions, if you want to set aside some time for Matt to walk through that, we're happy to do that. I just think it's very well done and very, very comprehensive to, especially if you haven't had it before, or if you haven't had it in a while, a good refresher would be nice.
Appreciate that. All right, Chairman Straka, members of the board, Superintendent Spurgeon, in November, West-MEC issued an RFQ for construction management services for our Northeast Campus project. 5 solicitations were received. After a thorough evaluation process, our committee recommends Mark McCarthy Construction. So tonight we're seeking approval to move forward with preparing that design services contract.
So my only concern with the Northeast campus is parking. And I know, just as an example, we've had parking issues over the time. I know right now Charlie Ellis is teaching construction and they're using 4 labs for one class, or two sections, but one class at a time in there. So it's, one of his labs is, I think, 24, the other is 12. If that construction goes away and we put 4 classes in there of 30 kids each, or just get from 24 to 30, how does that impact our parking? And what I'd really like to do is, as we go forward with the CMAR, I am good to approve it, but I'd like it to be a net neutral to parking. Meaning, if we think this building is gonna require 50 parking spots, we need to find an additional way to get 50 parking spots at Northeast Campus. Does that make sense? And I'm good with, hey, we're gonna buy the lot across the street and have all the staff park there, so there's more student parking, but something, because we're gonna grow there. And we just need to be prepared for it. And so that's my thought is, we need to be ready for parking. And if we're gonna add buildings, we gotta add parking to go with it.
Understood. We'll pick up a little.
No, I agree. You know, I've said this problem is an old problem. We need to think outside the box. Do we need to put up a parking garage? Do we need to buy some of the property to the east or to the north on the other side of the
The east
street?
is the airport, but the north.
Oh, there's north, but isn't there?
East is the airport, west
the
is
airport.
the west.
West, you're correct. You know, I'm just saying, it's been a problem. We should sometimes think outside the box and keep our eyes open, maybe.
Or
CJ.
even what I said to CJ today is, even if it's a raised building and you park underneath it, that could get us 50 or I don't know how many spots, but there's some. It's important to address parking, I think, so I'd be okay to approve it as long as we're gonna address parking with it.
Yeah, we can do that, and we'll keep you updated on as we have programs, because we're gonna lose the diesel program that will be moved on to the academy models. We'll lose one there, but we'll probably pick up another 3 or 4, but we'll just have to monitor.
Something
How many
else will
students,
go in
how many
there.
sections, exactly, yeah.
So
We can monitor
it's
the
just-
sections.
Because I think with TSMC going into that campus, and there will be more demand.
There will be.
And we just, you know, it's like when they say, hey, prepare, you're expecting rain. Well, if you're expecting rain, we're expecting students, let's be prepared for students. Let's not have, oh, we'd love to have more students, but we don't have a place to park. So let's.
So we'll bring the next pieces back, we'll bring the park, we'll keep parking along with every time we permit. or submit something for the Northeast campus, so you kind of see the design of it.
How do we get parking to go with it?
And align it with the program.
Yes, absolutely.
That's something that's already been brought up with the architects, and it's a serious concern of ours, and we have to be thinking through that during the whole process, so everyone's aware.
It's kind of a logical.
You're right, the interest to generate there is gonna increase.
Yeah, and so where do you park? Maybe Jim's right, buy more land, park across the street, something.
Or do it into building like we suggested.
Parking structure,
Yeah, think out of the box.
even underground.
Yeah. All right. Did we have a motion, Mr. Miglerino? Did you make?
Sure.
And I'll second it, since no one else is saying anything. Why didn't mine come up? Oh, there it is.
I do.
Yeah, mine just came up. You must have faster internet over there than me.
I'll change with you. Here's the one, I don't understand.
All right, good.
Thanks.
Thank you, sir. So, Mr. Weeks, land purchase,
Yes.
and I hear we exercised the right to a appraisal that was good news for West-MEC.
Yes, it was good news. I have the appraisal right here. So, Chairman Struck, members of the governing board, Dr. Spurgeon, thank you for allowing me to speak tonight. Members of the community, and congratulations. It's been nice to be your new CEO over the next summer. And I want to thank Laura Server Blanco. Come on up, Laura. She worked on behalf of West-MEC to write the contract with Agua Fria. And so she's legal counsel. Tonight, we're asking the board to consider possible approval of a land purchase agreement between Agua Fria Union High School District and West-MEC for the purchase by West-MEC of approximately 5.1 acre tract of land, referred to as the Agua Fria Transportation Yard, for $1.5 million using bond proceeds. And that's our ask.
Again, this is with the Agua Fria West-MEC Career Academy.
That's gonna be a joint venture,
Yes.
and it's gonna support programs.
Absolutely right.
And that department came $500,000 already different.
Yeah, we actually anticipated 2.2 million and it came in one.
So the backstory, which I think we need congratulations, or it was recommended we do an appraisal because we were going to do 2.2 million, and Dr. Spurgeon and the team, and I think CJ and Mr. Weeks were involved, and we did an appraisal. It came out lower. There was a couple of different numbers, and so we settled on 1.5 million. So because we did the appraisal, the district is gonna pay less.
Good job.
And it works out very well because, there's statutes that govern, the appraisals and the amount that you have to pay based on fair market value. But when it's a shared educational space, there's simply a way for us to be able to make some adjustments. And so Agua Fria has just been a tremendous partner for us, and they're very excited. Probably the most exciting project that we're doing right now as it relates to community interest in kids. At least 4, maybe 5 programs there, Mr. Miglerino, that's really they'll be able to walk right out of the high school and go right into our programs and come right back. Eliminates the challenges of transportation and a lot of things.
As long as we make it orange.
I'll go motion to accept the agreement.
All right, moved by Mr. Garcia, seconded by Ms. Bussum. Any other discussion? All right, hearing none, we'll call for the question. Let's see, it's our vote first. So yours is up there. Mine's not up.
She likes me better.
See, mine just came up.
What if it does it by last name or alphabetical order or something?
I don't know. I just like to say my internet's slower over here.
It's the band. It's the band.
Thank you.
Lead Coyote is right. Make sure everybody else gets taken care of. Good leaders are always
Well,
last.
it's funny when we're running a football game in the backyard or in the patio, and there'll be a 10-second delay between the two games. It's the same.
Exactly. So sometimes I pause my sleep so I don't get the echo.
Yeah. All right. Next item is Dr. Spurgeon, that we're just looking for, this is our meeting calendar for the next year. We're going to change the June meeting up a week. We're gonna meet June 5th instead of June 12th. And then the other one is for next year. I'm happy to see Miss Brown, you're gonna not have to work through Christmas to get the agenda together.
And I took your suggestion.
There's just no way you could do a June 8th meeting. When the last meeting is December 11th, that just, so, no. Good deal.
So we made some adjustments. Mr. Straka wanted to make sure that, based on folks' schedule, and then he asked us to put the whole year out. So now you have everything all the way through 2025, which will like for planning purposes, which is good.
Yep.
So December is.
December 11th,
I got the
2024. And then January 15th is the third Wednesday.
It's hard to believe, isn't it?
15th. And then all the others are second, and then June 4th instead of June 11th. And that takes us. All right. Any discussion on the calendar? Hearing none, we'll take a motion to approve it. I'll move if no one's gonna, let's keep this moving. And second by Mr. Miglerino. If hearing no more discussion, we'll call for the question, Ms. Brown. All right, passes unanimously. That brings us to future agenda items.
Nothing new.
Nothing new. Only thing I'd ask, and it doesn't even need to be an agenda item, but I haven't heard about that old Kmart project that we were advertised as on the news. Do we have any update on that?
CJ, you can come up here, but
Well, we can't, just send us a memo because we can't, it's not a.
We don't work. We're just waiting for.
We're waiting for, okay.
So I have a suggestion. So, do we have any, updates to our programs? Like if we're gonna be, especially looking already at next year, are we gonna change our programming at all? Is there gonna be any changes? I'd like to see and hear those changes as a board, so we know what's going on.
Okay, so update to curriculum and programs for next year. Yeah, we're already talking 24, 25.
That's.
It's barely 24.
Applications have been outstanding. That's a great thing, but it's not a great thing, so it means more kids aren't getting in, but. It's outstanding.
Gotta find ways to. One little building on Northeast Campus isn't gonna do it. As much as we can. All right. Hearing nothing, anything else? Hearing nothing else, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn. It's been moved by Mr. Miglerino, so we stand adjourned at 6:23. Mr. Miglerino, you can come back at midnight if you want to see if anyone's here. No. I assume you want this pen back. This is very nice.